smaller one, you're just got already.
That's so funny. So, hi, Gary. Hey, well, sir.
Let me write it down.
Okay.
The answer is,
Okay.
come on, you know the
Thank you,
answer.
Ryan.
It's unlike universe and everything else.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, it's 42. What, never did I get back to the office?
No,
Oh.
no.
You haven't lived. Yeah.
I have no life.
Well, you know. Hey, I'm all ears, go to the meetings and it's. Pardon?
Now, two in the morning. You'll have to meet back to talk about it. Yeah, but you know, maybe like one second.
Non-normal for us.
No,
No, right here, it's like not, I just picked this out, sit next to me.
Appreciate it.
Sure. Good, good to see you. Yeah, you too.
That was on scene, I got that.
Happy Rose, I'm Dana.
You never know, mine's Dan.
Good to meet you.
Yes,
Nice
yes.
to meet you,
Good to
Dana.
meet you too.
Welcome, when did you start?
Yesterday. It's a new job, so.
My dog just started a good job, like, what are you, like, in the city of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And let's take it off this. On their service. Anyway, I'm like, it's exhausting, right? She said, yeah, there's so much to learn. There's a lot to learn.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot, but it's a.
So.
I know anybody
Hi, Jess, how are you? Good, how are you? This piece here, this is. First meeting.
It is.
I'm very seldom here.
Yeah. Oh, really?
This is.
Do they?
No, you can't, I was sitting here.
Oh, okay.
I'll move my.
Fair enough. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, Jerry, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Having a long, I'm all set. Yeah. Gary, Jerry, good to meet you. The same.
Hi, Paul, how are you?
Thank you. I know, and how are you? All right, good.
Oh, hi, Paul.
Hi.
Hi, Bob, how are you? Good. Hi, Mary, hi, Jen, sorry, I was still distracted by the audience, so it's like, oh, there's people, we're such a distraction.
You should be used to it by now.
I know, right? Good, is it, says capacity.
I'm sending right now, I have that too, and one of the.
Disabled right hand, so I need something there. I'm slowly getting, but I know.
Sorry, we'll do it, Margaret. I'm sorry, the fingers just still exist, they don't do anything. They're just there. I can't make a fist.
Yeah.
I can't use my finger, I can't have to, like, you know, wave like crazy. It's been. No, I just have to, I sit there and kind of really love that factor, but I don't know if we should do more.
I think we should do it.
So, oh, John, are you, John's police?
John's-
I know, that's, oh, yeah.
You gotta stay in order.
No, just shoot me a look, sir, shoot me a look.
We should bring it out.
Talking about when we say after.
Yeah.
Should I?
Hi, how are you? Good.
This way.
I don't have my agenda. I just make up my.
Oh, that.
Downstairs.
Probably, I'll put it. No one else did anything down, so. Well, I think that's one of the city.
Okay.
Oh, really? Yeah, and my husband leaves a trail of. Where we go. There's some city of bridge and- Yeah, yeah. So it's like, all the time, and then there's like,
Right, yeah.
I was trying to make that one. I'm like, that's 20. Yeah.
That's what I mean, we have. What I do.
Yeah, but it's
I know, I can. Yes. Awesome. Absolutely. You always get better, first day, second day, a year, next you know, it's 10 years. Yes. You don't remember how you got there. That's the goal. 20. No, this is. But if you have to like forward to do that. Yeah, right. Either way, right, it's, so it's agenda. I guess it's. How's that order? Well, and even. And just. And then have a. Yeah, it can. Cool. I know, go with us, and it's all. We're not going. We're not going. It's all. One. We're waiting down.
But it's so big, I know, it's so short. I like it, yeah, yeah, I just want shorter and shorter.
Okay. That's not. Yeah.
You see my email this morning with the afternoon.
We can wire this.
Still trying to think.
She likes that.
Oh, okay,
All right, so like weekends, a weekend.
Weekends are better, yeah, weekend mornings, we can definitely have, and then evenings, I'm not, and.
Saturday morning. I'm asking around. Because that works for me. Because I love it. I mean, there's some days we get outside.
Yeah. Really know.
Like last.
Are they out a lot or?
You want to walk? You know, they're too hard. You're gonna do something. Yeah, I think. Right.
Yeah.
No idea, but this is part of that. Yes, so it'd be nice.
All the candidates.
All right, well,
You know what, I could actually. I can't. So I can just like.
I'm just support. Last year. Yeah, we like.
Well. Yeah.
So, yeah. I should see a lot more.
I
never said that. I know. Sounds good.
So.
That wasn't a very good video.
It's, you don't follow it.
I know.
Something. We've got to make some changes. No. Of course. Yeah. Being not the work session. It's like the whole.
Yes, and I was saying this. Oh my God. For like 4 hours. Oh, actually, all right, I don't know how this goes. It's a good start.
I'm the police judge pro tem. So we're gonna call the meeting for October 8th, 2024, the Town of Georgetown Board of Selectmen to order. And I would like somebody to start with the agenda.
Oh, well.
I'm joined and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, now agenda. Oh, roll call. Sorry. That's not different boards. Sorry. I'm here, John Jennings, Rob Connell, not here. Amanda Cooper.
Here.
And Dwayne Kaczynski. Here. Mary Smith.
Here.
Rich Barrows.
Here. They have a quorum, and the police judge pro tem votes. Even though he's in the chair, he votes, the police judge doesn't, but when the pro tem is in the chair, he keeps his vote as a selectman.
Good.
So you know.
Now we're at the agenda.
Now. Agenda.
Do we have an agenda approval?
So I'd like to ask that we strike number 3, number 8. And there's been a request to move the work session to now, the first item of business.
And also add an item
In here,
for
Jessica, should
for Jessica Trevette.
before you want, before
Would
we.
that be the old 11?
So we can put it, yeah, we can put it at 11.
That's true.
Is that a motion?
And so we need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we're accepting a motion of the agenda as amended.
Well, that is.
We're good. All in favor?
Aye.
That's everybody. Okay, so audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anybody here? Somebody in the back row. Got my glasses on, sorry.
Cindy.
Cindy.
Okay.
By now, but.
My name is Cindy Neely, and I am here as your project manager for the Argentine Street North project, because I didn't get my slot on the agenda in time, and I wanted to give you a less than 5-minute update on where we are on Argentine North. Argentine North is about 75% complete. This includes the removal of all of the poles from on the on the north half of the project, between the apartment houses and the microtel. And Rick only had to get unkind to Excel twice to have it happen. But actually, we thank Excel, it's all underground. We thank Lumen and Comcast. That's a big visual that has happened in the project. All of the asphalt that is going to be done is done. I know some people worried we were putting in a 3rd lane. Actually, no, not at all. They were putting in a slight curve at the south end, and we had to move the road over at the north end because there was not sufficient room in front of the microtel for the sidewalk. The sidewalk on the east side is progressing well. It has to wait a little bit for Sturgeon to get the conduit for the streetlights under the ground there. And so the sidewalk is looks like it's hopping around in pieces. It isn't, that will not end up in pieces, but that's why it is in pieces for the moment. The roundabout is a standard small roundabout that passes all of the specifications of CDOT for small roundabouts and traffic control for small roundabouts. I know that it has had some consternation. We think that the striping will help. It has a very large truck apron. As a matter of fact, it sort of is a whole truck apron with a small center. Nothing will be placed in the center of that. It is anticipated that a fire truck or et cetera is going to have to ride that truck apron. That's why that truck apron is there. And we do understand that the snowplows are gonna have to slow down to get around it, but the whole purpose of the roundabout is that everybody's gonna have to slow down, whipping down that road, so we're there. The bike path is finished as far as it's going, because we have no idea what's gonna happen to those lots that are further to the south. There was no sense building something that we were going to potentially pull out and move, so that's our general report of where we are. Paying these bills is causing an enormous difficulty in your cash flow. But I think that Mary is successfully getting us reimbursed from our, some of it, from our grant sources, which are DOLA and CDOT. I would say the most difficult thing about this has been that CDOT announced that we had to follow all the same kinds of specifications as though we were building a mile of the interstate. Now think about that for a minute. It means that there are daily diaries, daily logs, there's forms of every type and form, and they expect somebody to have eyes on site every day for a good part of the day. And like your ears, we couldn't possibly do this without Craig. Craig has absolutely been out there every single day. He understands the game of submitting electronic forms well enough, and he gets the jargon fast enough when we do tell me you need a PC for an HMA. I don't know what a PC for an HMA is. HMA is hot mix asphalt, I do. But no, it's sort of crazy, at that level, you know, we do let them know that, you know, that it really, we will literally have filed hundreds of forms before we're done. It's sort of crazy, but, it's coming along, and if you have any questions, save them for later. You have a long agenda.
And Cindy,
Thank you. Yes,
it's great. And thank you.
For the signs on the roundabout, is that Jalisco or is that us? Ultimately, the signs for the roundabout. Like yield signs, arrow signs. Oh, yeah, there's a whole signing and striping part. And, oh, I forgot to say, there is a set of plans downstairs in the office. They've been there for quite a while. And if you look at the index and look for signing and striping, they're just not done yet because you're gonna do it all at once. You know, you're not, it's gonna have white lines along the side and it's gonna have a little like yellow line down the middle and all of those kinds of things. Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
I saw another hand. Hey, Dick.
Hi, Dana Abrahamson, in Ward 1, and I just wanted to kind of come and make the point that I've noticed the conversation, I've heard some talk and seen on social media about this conversation that you all made the decision to choose a new police judge or town marshal from outside of town, and I just want you to know that I think that was the right thing to do. And it almost feels like it's escalating more recently, and I'm very much hoping, I think it's become obvious even more so over time that you all made the right choice. And I think that we should provide every opportunity for Dan to bring in new people, new police officers. I think that it's worth mentioning that we're in this position because something horrible happened related to police culture and horrible judgment. And I think there's a place for empathy and kindness in policing, and I hope that's the way we're gonna start approaching it. And I just wanted to maybe encourage you all too to keep in mind that, you know, our police officers can be welcoming to visitors rather than yell at them as they leave town. I think we should be waving and smiling at our visitors as they leave town, especially when they're fighting traffic and crowds, because the fact is they are very important to us and we're grateful that they want to be here. I think that our police officers, I think it would be amazing if they embraced special events and showed up and smiled and shook hands and walked the streets during Christmas market with again, a smile and maybe some assistance here and there. I think when there's a crisis on the highway or a storm, I think we're a welcoming place, or we definitely should be. I think we can provide warmth and food and a place to wait out the storm in comfort. People with kids out there, you know, I've been in those situations and volunteer directing traffic. I mean, it's not that difficult to give somebody a hello and some information and a snack or something. So I just really hope that we're not alone in really needing to evolve our police culture here in our small town, like many other, my dad, by the way, is a retired cop. So I just wanted to say that and express that. I would also end by acknowledging you guys. I mean, this time that you put in takes away from your kids, your homes, your jobs, your hobbies. I mean, I appreciate it, and I know there's no thanks. And you know, some of these ugly things that they've bordered on threatening to you all individually, and I just think that's unacceptable. I feel like we must have policy and we must have some standards. You know, we're living in this time of a political discourse where people just say whatever they want. I mean, sometimes it's untrue and, you know, it's just so ugly, and we have the ability to put a stop to that. And I'm asking you to do what you can to allow us to move on gracefully and, you know, create a new policing culture. And ultimately, thank you all very much. I know it was a hard decision and I know it took courage, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Y'all just stand right here and I'll make a bunch of people move. My name is Robert Smith. I live here in Georgetown. I'm very proud of the process, the whole process you went through with all the hoopla, that's one of my favorite words, went on about, finding a new police chief. I think you guys made a great decision. My hope is that as we move forward, that you treat this man, not that you didn't before, but treat this man with integrity, do the right thing, and do the just thing in your decisions with it. Because I remember voting for all you guys to govern us, not Facebook. Okay? I really don't like that part where we alter what we're doing because of Facebook. It's my comment.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't know, something.
Okay.
Hi.
Uh,
Want to state your name?
Yeah, I'm calling Duke. I live in Ward 2, is that a big thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I live in Ward 2, here in Georgetown. I just wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks for the hard work and dedication, that you as the board have shown, in the process of hiring our new police chief. I can only imagine how difficult the decision must have been, and I want to acknowledge the genuine care you're putting into ensuring Georgetown has the very best leadership. Your role, though unpaid, is one of immense responsibility. And I've seen firsthand the long hours and late nights you devote to this town by watching these videos, usually at home with my toddlers running around. It's your dedication that keeps our community moving forward, so really appreciate that. I also wanted to just say a welcoming to our new chief. Thank you so much. And glad that you're a part of our community. I hope you enjoy it here.
Thank you.
Yes. And then I did want to speak on something on the later piece, the childcare piece. So as you guys have known, we haven't had childcare in the county for a while. We just got it started back up for children younger than 5. So I have 2 under that age. And I have a small business here in Georgetown, and it's been really difficult juggling working opposite schedules with my husband and trying to expand on my business. I just hit my 5-year anniversary with that business in the same location. It's been great, but I would really like to start moving forward and making a profit. Having the children in childcare, it is kind of putting me back because that's a huge expense when we have been just kind of meeting the bare minimum up until this point. So when you do get to the piece that Justin's gonna speak on, I just wanna let you guys know it's like life-changing for our family to be able to really afford the things our children need, be able to afford them. Also have a little bit of family time. Me and my husband are just like, hey, bye, tag, you're it. So yeah, that's my piece to it. It's really life-changing, and you know, not only like am I gonna start building my business more and doing more things with that, with the time I have available with those 24 hours with them away. I know there's many other parents and moms in my position who are like, how can I afford childcare? I haven't been working this long. We just kind of need a little push to like help us have our the children taken care of while we're working on businesses. And I think it would actually really help us have more employees in town. There's a lot of businesses I see suffering, especially post-COVID, post losing a lot of childcare centers. And we're anxious to work. We're done staying at home. We want to go out there and be in the workforce. So just something to keep in mind, anything you can do to help encourage that childcare participation, especially in these early years of getting it back, would be great for our workforce too. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have anybody else in the audience? Okay, I have 2 letters here. This is from Ann Wilkins. I'm unable to attend the meeting tonight and wanted to express my thoughts about the question of the new officer, chief. I would think that since the board represents the citizens, they should take our thoughts into account, which I don't think happened at the meeting leading up to the hiring of the new officer. All these meetings, I was led to believe the new officer would be required to live in the county on the night of the meet and to greet. Rick told me whoever was hired would live in town and the town would be able to find him a place to live. Now it seems our new officer will live in Evergreen, so our tax dollars will be paid to support Jefferson County, from which I've been told about where he is living. But since there has been no transparency in this whole procedure, I may be wrong about him living in Jeffco. the wear on our patrol vehicles will be excessive, costing our small town more money. I'm not sure how they can be any community, there can be any community involvement with an officer who does not live here. My final concern is an emergency response. How can you have any kind of response time from that far away? How long will it take them to get to town in an emergency? When our car was stolen from our driveway, we had an officer at our house in 15 minutes after looking for our car. This was at 6 in the morning. It's Fernand Wilkins. 505 2nd Street. That's one. The second one is from Jamie. This is long but necessary. The Board of Selectmen is supposed to act in the best interest of the community and individually the voice of the constituents of each representation represents the ward. Unanimous approval by every voting member of the Board of Selectmen on the multifaceted matters regarding our police marshal is a direct representation of the fact that he is not the case any longer, it's not the case any longer in Georgetown. The fact that the Board of Selectmen has hired a new marshal that was not in line with the majority of its constituents' wishes. Aside from that, there has been a noticeable lack of transparency in the person's employment history. The fact that the general public has a legitimate concerns about this should inspire the Board of Selectmen to be more honest and open, not less, especially in the wake of the Christian Glass shooting and the fact that we have received national media attention. The lack of public awareness is incredible, bad optics. This letter isn't meant to be a petty or vindictive because A.M. Gaskins was not hired. I think it's because the board continues to fail with what it promised us when the hiring process was started. The hiring requirements that were put in place no longer matter. Tonight, the Board of Selectmen will vote to approve allowances that are in direct conflict of what those requirements were. As a concerned citizen and business owner of Georgetown, I ask you to vote no on allowing Mr. Trechter to be rewarded for living outside of Clear Creek County and not to approve a housing stipend that will be paid for with tax dollars of your constituents that will be used to support another county entirely. We will be paying extra money for maintenance on a vehicle that will be driven extra miles because he has chosen not to live in the community. These tax dollars will support Jeffco, and he will be a member of the Evergreen community. With all respect due to Mr. Trechter, that is not at all in line with the community policing policy that he said he so badly wanted to be part of as the meet and greet. Actions speak louder than words, and the decisions to live in Jeffco's side of Evergreen screams to me that Georgetown isn't a priority. The Board of Selectmen bending over backwards to support and reward this decision is incredibly tone deaf. It was voted on by the board on a public meeting that there would be housing stipend offered for a person hired, and no one did it. At no time did anyone say that it would be paid to another county because it was literally in the job posting, the candidate must reside in the county. Any person who read that posting and applied to the job would have seen that and known this is the case. And having looked into Georgetown and understanding that our police department is small and sometimes a one-person job, would have then looked into housing. If they were still willing to apply, then they would have figured out how to live in the county without asking for extra money from a place that doesn't have it and go live somewhere else. Please do not allow this to happen. Please make a decent decision to not waste any more town funding on this. Is really bad standard to set, and the entirety of the Board of Selectmen and the town administration has to see that. If you vote yes on this, you might as well have let him live in Kansas. It's not really that different. Jane. Okay, anybody else?
Next agenda item is.
Next agenda.
Can we ask a question pertaining to that? Because we didn't hire a chief that was gonna be on call 24 hours a day, correct? I mean, can I ask that question?
Yeah.
Because I'm curious, because people ask me, I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, we didn't hire a chief to work 24 hours a day or be on call. And so based off of our last temporary chief, the most hours worked a week is 50 hours a week. So base that off of a certain amount of hours a day, that left us short-handed a tremendous amount of time. So off of that, we always have the sheriff's department covering us, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just making sure it's clear in my head, because we don't expect them to work 24 hours a day or be on call. And or work more than a set amount of hours,
And we had concerns about officer wellness and health
100%.
when Gaskins felt the need to respond and he was told to work within a more contained shelter.
Correct, which,
So,
too, I've seen our,
which supports what you're saying.
right, just making sure I'm clear on it. And also too, with our local police cars, I've seen them more out of town than I've seen them in town also. So just saying, it's pretty far up in El Cas, pretty far up in Silver Plume, basically all over the place. So, but I look at that as Idaho Springs supports us, Empire supports us, the county supports us, we also support them, which I would hope that you would support those areas. So, sorry, I'm just making sure we're all on the same page here.
Thank
Is it inappropriate to add a comment?
You know, right, we're in audience business, and we're not really, we're not really refining the job description for the police chief in the middle of audience business in reaction to a critical letter. First Amendment, people can say what they want, but at some point, it doesn't get to sort of, hold hostage the agenda, because we got an agenda. The police chiefs, the work is on the agenda later on. That'd be the time the board wants to address that.
Perfect. Sorry.
But not really,
Yeah,
not really,
Sorry.
let's move on to the
Otherwise, it'll be a long discussion that is in the wrong place. I'm not afraid of it, it's just kind of out of it.
So how about we move to tables? I think that was.
Tables?
Yeah, right?
Jen, is that it for, is there anyone online or anything?
Nobody is raising their hand to speak, so we're, yeah.
Okay, sorry. Let's close the audience business then and move to payables.
So I have a concern about one of the items on the,
Okay? What do you have a concern about?
on the police department. There was the equipment and office supply charge for $297.15 to Symbol Arts. I made an inquiry with Mary Sims, our treasurer, regarding what that was for and asked for an invoice. And apparently there was an order placed for a division chief badge, which I don't believe we have a division chief on our police department. And then there was a badge, ordered for a retired marshal badge. And we do not have a retired marshal. We changed that position to chief of police. So I understand we could be in a predicament with this order that's been placed. But until we investigate this or cancel this order or look into how it was ordered, especially under the circumstances, I want to put a halt to that payment.
We don't pull all payables, right?
Not all payables, I'm just asking for $297.15 not to be paid out until our administrator or our finance officer can look into this and take the proper steps to cancel the order, or let me know who our division chief is and who our retired marshal is that we ordered. I have no opinion.
Let's have staff look at that.
Proper motion to approve the payables as presented with the exception of 10-54-610 and instruct the staff to research that and bring it back next meeting.
Is there any more questions about payables? Okay, so you have a motion. They want.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have first and second on that motion. All in favor? Any more discussion? Passes. Now we're in the minutes. And did anybody see any of the minutes that they want to make corrections about?
Mary had given me a, revision under the police chief transition on page 2. And she wanted me to add, based on previous board discussions, Selectman Smith requested clarification and confirmation as to acting chief gasman rank and title, just kind of add that to the beginning of the, kind of change that first sentence to that.
Okay.
And then Lynette wanted me to reword on page, under town administrator report and task list. I think it was the third or fourth bullet, the one that's talking about Agua Saudi. And it was just a little bit, so I changed the sentence to read, meeting with Agua Saudi on September 30th, 2024 to get quotes for studies for water capacity, water distribution system and storage and fire protection. And, I sent that to her and she approved it.
Okay. Anybody else? Can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended for September 23rd.
Second. Anybody get a second?
Second.
Dwayne's got the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
The next is the work session, I because you moved
Yeah,
there.
so we're going into the work session now. This work session's about building services with the county.
Good evening, and thank you everyone for rearranging the schedule for us to present first tonight. We really appreciate it. I have a handout for everybody. I'm just gonna, this is a little that different, oh, no, it's the one you have. Okay, so does everybody have it printed out?
It's in the packet.
Oh, great.
So we're good.
Then I will not hand it out. So as stated, we have an opportunity to provide unified building department services for Georgetown as well as for Idaho Springs. The county is already providing building department services for the town of Empire. And what this would do is allow you to no longer work with Safe Built. As both Idaho Springs and Georgetown, I think, are not particularly happy with the services that Safe Built is providing. By working with the county, it would mean you're working with a government entity instead of a for-profit entity, and that would help provide a lot of stability, hopefully, and like-minded support. One of the things that our program would be able to do is help have inspectors that were available 4 to 5 days a week instead of only a few hours a week. We think that would be a big improvement in service. Our current inspection practices are that we can, you call our inspection line and we deliver that inspection the next day. And that would be something we would continue to be able to provide for Georgetown and Idaho Springs residents. So this presentation basically gives us an overview of some of the initiatives. Oh, and I did not introduce my friend and colleague here. I'm very sorry about that. This is Dave Danielson. He is our chief building official. And this really is, this whole unified building program is Dave Danielson's brainchild. He's been with the county since June and is really the reason we have the capacity and the ability to take this on for the county.
How about while we're doing that, just reintroduce yourself, because
Oh, I'm sorry.
I may have missed that.
I am so lame. My name's Amy Saxon. I've presented to you all before several times, but I'm the Strategic and Community Planning Division Director for Clear Creek County. That division includes the Planning and Building Group as well as Housing, which is where I've been here to talk to you about housing before. Housing, trails and open space, and then I represent the county on issues related to I-70 as well.
Thank you.
You are welcome, and thank you for reminding me to.
Sorry, we want to get it on tape.
No, I appreciate that very much. So, in order to do this unification process, there are several steps that we would like to encourage you as our partner to take on. And we've had initial discussions with Rick about this. And we did talk also at the mayors and commissioners meeting this morning and got some more feedback from Tasia on this. But the main thing that one of the first things we would need to do is get everybody on the same building code. The county would have a few steps to take to get on the same code, and we would recommend and request that you adopt the 2021 building code. We would have some work to make sure that all of the amendments that we have to that building code are in alignment. And we think that's going to be a pretty simple process. The other thing we would try to accomplish is having a unified fee schedule. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then, we have a couple of programs that we'll be working on adopting as a county that we would want to have everybody participate in. One of those is a contractor licensing program. So we would be asking all of the contractors, particularly, that all of the contractors we work with, how about you talk about this a little bit more? Actually, Dave, can you talk about the contractor licensing program?
Yeah, so the contractor licensing program is something that we want to implement to provide end consumer protections. You know, currently we don't have any standards of work experience or any requirements for them to have demonstrate minimum knowledge for installing whatever trade they might work in. There are requirements through the state for plumbing and electrical only, and that's currently. So we'll be expanding that to encompass mechanical installations and general contracting. So they would pay an annual fee to maintain their license. We would make sure that anybody pulling a license is qualified to do the work that they're going to be performing at the county.
And so ideally, we would all sign on to that program.
How do our in-house, contractors feel that that would affect the building here?
I think it's fair enough. It's kind of what is around the state. Most states is where I come from. So I think that's fair. Jumping the code, because we just went from 2015 to 18 correctly, like just recently. So I think that is a big jump to prepare more so than a contractor's license. What is your guys' turnaround time on once you guys accept an application from a builder for a permit? Safebuilt always gave us 10 days response time with any issues, and then another 10 days from that point for those issues.
So we have some permits that are gonna be instant issue permits. I think Safebuilt generally calls those one-stop permits. Those will be available online 24 hours a day over the weekend. When nobody's in office, you can get those permits. Then there's gonna be
What are some examples of those?
water heater, anything mechanical, siding permits, roofing permits, things like this. We do know that there are some concerns with the exterior aesthetics of buildings here in Georgetown. So if there was a reason that you'd want to hold up like a siding permit or some kind of exterior work, you guys would be able to have some input on there. And so new constructions and projects that you guys would like to have some input on the exterior aesthetics would have to get a certificate of approval from the municipality before we would take it in to Clear Creek County. That would afford you the opportunity to provide conditions of approval for that permit. It would allow you an opportunity to provide corrections to meet your community standards for that permit. Once that certificate of occupancy or certificate of approval is provided to the county, we'll do a permit intake. We will audit the documents provided to us. We'll have a 14-day plan review time. We're gonna have a goal to exceed that 14-day turnaround, and that's calendar days, not business days.
Of course.
So then, once fees are established and then they're paid, that permit would be issued. So hopefully a 14-day turnaround time if the plans are clean. If they have to go back for revisions, then obviously it extends that time, but that's outside of our control.
So it just kind of refollows that process. It's kind of what Safebuilt has done too. So usually there's always little stuff. We put that back on there, provide it to you, and then it kind of starts within that 14 days again, which is similar to what Safebuilt does now. I like the idea of at least 4 days a week inspections. Makes it nicer, makes the job more efficient.
And I think we would be good 5 days a week, right? Is that right? Even if
Yes.
the county's open 4 days a week, we would arrange our inspection schedule to cover 5 days a week.
Awesome.
What would the expectation be for the town to, timeframe to adopt the 2021 code?
Well, I mean, I think we would love to be able to get this in place by January 1 if it was possible. So which is very fast, we realize that. But I think there is probably, our understanding is there's a strong interest to make this happen, so the residents are not impeded by the safe build limitations on their schedule for inspections. So I mean, to some degree that is up to you, but for the vision is that we would really strive to get the code adopted as quickly as possible, so we, and also to stumble around here a little bit more, it is possible that we could do this without everybody on the same code as long as we did have an IGA in place. It would not be ideal, but, it's not impossible.
So could we grandfather in existing construction, even if it's just hit the door with DRC or whatever, that because the plans have been submitted, or they're, they're working with their architect, blah, 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 so they're still operating under the 2018 code until, but then a
Oh,
new
yeah.
build as a.
You'd have to
Yeah,
change
yes,
the date.
yes.
It's not common.
So we can have an overlap period for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so until that date of adoption, anything that's been issued under your currently adopted codes will be, finished through fruition under those currently adopted codes. I'm fluent in codes back to 2012. So that's going to be a fairly simple process for us. It's gonna be a little bit of a juggle here, and I might outline something that's a new code requirement, so we say, hey, step back, and we'll make sure we'll be all right, we'll get into the, code that you're enforcing.
I can see if they're already under, the permit's been issued and then you're just picking up the permit from Safe Build basically, or, taking it away from Safe Build. But, if someone's still in that architectural design phase, working under, oh, well, we're still on blah, 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 2018 code, so this is how we can put it together, with the engineer.
The 2018 code would continue.
Yeah, I would just like to, know if we can still make that applicable, because I know we had some issues with that.
What I was gonna say too, it's off of, like with DRC too, because a lot of times we do just a loose set of plans to go through DRC. But then all the final plans are drawn, you guys get caught, it becomes a huge expense to then try to change everything.
Right.
I'd be curious with you guys too, with how much, because I know too, when newer codes are adopted, not everything is adopted on that. So I'd be curious on what or if, or everything you guys are gonna adopt with going to 21, I'd be curious to review that.
Right.
To kind of see.
So I've shared the amendments with, Rick already, and so he can share those with everybody here in the town. What I've done with those amendments that I've shared is I've, taken a look at Georgetown and Idaho Springs and our own desires for our building codes, and I've created an amalgamation of everybody's requirements, and hopefully I've come up with something that's pretty fair to everybody. The couple little items that I've taken out, other than the specific county amendments on a frost footing down to 42 inches instead of 36 inches, a gas line burial depth of 18 inches down instead of 12 inches, and that's just because of our climate.
Which I thought we were at, I mean, all my plans that I built on in the last 10 years, we've been at 42 inches for frost depth.
And I think that's one thing that some people would be making an adjustment for, but
Gotcha.
might be already your
Yes.
level, but that's just an example. And just to be clear, the county has already adopted the 2021 code. With David's arrival, we're making some additional amendments to the 2021 code. The county also does not currently have the existing building code adopted. So we would be adopting that code as well with our amendments. So that's one of the things we will be doing. That will help get everybody in line, because most of both Georgetown and Idaho Springs have the existing building code already adopted. So the goal is to have everybody singing from the same songbook on building code, so we all have adopted the same code. And, the timing would, ideally, we would all get to that point around the same time so that we could, move forward together. But if we can't do that, because we understand that adopting the new code will take time. The other thing that we will need to be doing is getting an IGA in place so we can establish how this would all work. But that's the main story on code adoption.
Yes.
Can I go back to the contract licensing for a minute? This is probably a staff question too. Would this replace our business license that we're holding our contractors to? And so is there still a link? I mean, I wouldn't think so. I mean, the contractor license, and you're just holding them to a higher standard. But there would be a place in the flow of permitting and everything that you would know that ABC contractor is licensed in Georgetown, correct? I mean, that's part of.
Yeah, well, it's, I mean,
Your setup?
sorry to answer, but it's like, if you're an electrical contractor, you have to have an electrical license to be
Right.
a licensed electrical contractor. But then also too, if you're gonna work in this town, you still have to carry a town license also. So I mean, it makes sense, it amazes me because every place that seems like care, mechanical, They don't call it, they do electrical and plumbing, so I think that is a great idea. Builder's license with current building codes is, I see that more as a must nowadays. I mean, you still have your handyman, how they operate is,
It's a professional standard.
Yeah.
That you
Yes.
want your colleagues to be, and
yeah,
the person who's having their property developed, you'd wanna hope that.
right, and then and of course you want them to have a license with the town too, to operate in this town.
I just don't want it to be confused that, I have my contractor license, but you don't have your Georgetown business license, so
Right.
is it's going through, are people still gonna come in the door, and are they still gonna be working with Georgetown? And then it gets funneled through you? So-
Except for the instant issue permits or the one-stop permits, the first step would be working with Georgetown and working on whatever, planning and your planning department, basically approving the project. The DRC, whatever steps would be taken to get that, certificate of approval on the project.
Appropriateness.
A certificate of appropriateness on the project that would be needed. And so that would be the first step, which would be where a lot of that initial clarity could be established.
Have you presented to our GRC yet? Oh, sorry.
No, we have not. This was our first stop in Georgetown.
Okay.
Asia.
Yes. I had a question about, for the one-stop permit, for the instant issue permits. Will you have some way to, like, will you look at our list of people with a business license to? Well, it'll just, I guess, be issued, so that's just something we're gonna have to keep an eye on, maybe.
I mean, I think if there's a particular concern or something
A lot
we
of
can work on, we can figure
plumbers
out.
in particular, I have to, I check them right now, but even with the instant issues, they have to go through me. And I check with Jen to make sure that they have their business license, so that might be something that we have to.
But even roofing has to go through DRC, if somebody re-roofs, don't we have a DRC permit for that?
For
Yeah.
roofs, yes, but for a water heater, no.
Right, but you were also talking where roofing was one of your one-stop shop.
We need to decide which ones are one stop.
Yeah,
The other question I have is, and I'm specifically considering kind of the historical nature of a lot of our structures. Are we able to amend the code to fit the needs of our community? Like, how would that look for us?
Yes, so the existing building code, we've already drafted an amendment to address that, section 104.10. We're providing a opportunity for the municipality to come through and amend non-life safety issues with the code to provide your community aesthetic and preserve your historical buildings. It also allows for the building official to also make those judgments as well. So if there's a judgment that I'm not making that you would like to see, you go through a review. Your DRC potentially could make these judgments on the town's behalf to modify the code. So we're not stepping on the historical preservation of your city.
Thank you.
I think there's value to linking this, and I like the consistency throughout the county, because I think it also opens up the doors, for whatever comes up, and it makes us more on the same level, with the exception of DRC that we have, but I can see that the process is going to be really bumpy, and that everything can't be flagged in your system, because everything is gonna be flagged, and it's still gonna have to come back to staff, and I know those are hurdles that can be overcome, but, someone's gonna be just like, oh, I can just go on the town website now, and I can fill this out because I'm living in Georgetown, and they can't. It's gonna have to be certain documents or checklists have to be made on your end before one-stop permits go.
So, and we don't even have to turn on one-stop permits for Georgetown. We can alter our boundaries by tax district. So Georgetown has its own tax district. So we could require all permits coming from Georgetown to have condition of appropriateness. COA, condition of approval is, but, so then you would have ultimate control of everything going through Georgetown if that's what you desired. If you wanted permits to be one-stop permits, we can reconfigure our system, so everything is, some things are one-stop permits, water heaters, potentially, any mechanical installations, but then we could hold it up on anything exterior. So this is all stuff that we can work with, and we just have to iron the wrinkles out as we go.
Can I make a suggestion? would it be appropriate for us to schedule a work session with the, other affected commissions, specifically DRC and planning? And it doesn't even necessarily need to be their entire commissions, just maybe designees for those
Yeah.
commissions and us, and then we get, now that we know about this, we get a little more time to like go through that. The one thing that I would personally like to see would be the huge hits on code and what that would look like for us, so I think we could grasp, like the big differences between 18 and 21. If you'd be willing to, 15, excuse me, 15, what she said. If you would be willing to help us maybe draft up something so we could kind of prep for what that looks like, or give us just, you don't have to go through the whole thing, but give us the high points.
Yeah.
And then maybe then we could, we all know that there's value in having things exist within the county, and we don't really adore this current state of services.
Well,
It's
and
like, yeah.
the county is able to provide more frequency of service, which I think is going to, you know, be a
Exactly.
huge benefit to both our contractors and whoever is.
No, I mean, it was the most frustrating thing ever, trying to get us, you know, when we were trying to open our business, and we would get an inspection on a Thursday, and then they're like, oh, you used the wrong this. And we lost weeks, waiting till Tuesday for them to come back.
How did the fees align with what we've been paying with state bill? Are those?
So fees are the next thing.
Okay,
So, yeah, sure, thank you. And Amanda, I think that's a good way to talk, to get into the details a little bit more about how all of the mechanics of mechanical parts, things like that will work, and how we'll get that working, because I think that'll make sense. But fees are the next item on our list. And so, the fee schedule. So, one of the things that Dave has been working on, and that we've been working on just as a county, aside from this whole project, and we will hurry up here, but, is we've been working on a fee schedule that is, as it says here, it's listed, it talks a little bit about how this formula is calculated. But the goal of our fee schedule is to cover all of the costs of our building department. And currently, the county does not have a fee schedule that is structured that way. So we're moving to a fee schedule that does that. What that means is that adds a little complexity to the way Safe Built was providing the 20% or 25% or whatever portion of permit fees that were returned to you. So if we can continue to deliver that 20 or 25% or whatever, I just can't remember. Can somebody tell me what the right number is? I don't keep saying 20 or 25.
I think you're 25%.
25%.
20% not as.
Okay, whatever the 20, if it was 25%, what was returned to you, we can continue to do that. The problem is, we can't, if we just, we can't, because we're trying to, cover our costs. If we add 25% to the Georgetown permits and then embed that in our total cost of permit delivery, then we're spreading the cost of the Georgetown, I'm gonna use the word kickback, but it's not the right word, but the Georgetown commission, across all permit applicants. And we don't want it, we would rather not do that, because that's not how it's supposed to work. So what we would do instead is take the multiplier for the Georgetown permits and increase it by 25%. So that there was a 25% surcharge in the Georgetown permits. But just so you understand, what that would mean is the Georgetown permits are 25% higher than the county permits. And, so I think it's the question, and we talked about this a little bit this morning, is whether that is how you want to do things, or the other option would be to, separately charge for the permits that, Georgetown is, the services that Georgetown is delivering directly, like the planning, planning department type services that Georgetown is delivering directly. Georgetown could, establish what the costs are of those services and cover the costs of the services that Georgetown is delivering, or we can charge 25% higher for each for the permit, for the building permits, to allow you to get the 25% back on the permit fees.
So those are 25% going to when it comes to.
Planning clerk, yeah, I mean, clerk, we have staff that are involved, DRC's involvement, planning commission's involvement. There's a lot of staff time involved.
Oh, I can appreciate that, and so we don't wanna lose that, even though this isn't going to
Salary.
decrease that. So is there a way that maybe we need to manage our own fee schedule outside of this to account for that, so that when somebody walks in the door and they're starting the process?
So I think we can look at that at the time.
Yeah, I think we
rather
need to
than
think
right
about it.
now.
I think we need to
Oh,
think,
yeah, but I'm just.
and we also need to see the cost difference of a permit is gonna cost. I mean, we're talking, this 25%. Maybe we probably need some feedback from our contractors, because, I mean, their services are about to jump 25%.
I think, can you comment on that? I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, so the way that we're gonna calculate our permit fees, is we're gonna do a total construction valuation from the prior year, and then we're gonna take the cost of administering the building codes department, and we're gonna divide that into that number, come up with a permit fee multiplier. What that's gonna do is make sure that everybody's paying their fair share of their permit costs, right? So we're operating at a net zero, so the overall permit cost with the county building permit fee multiplier, with Georgetown included and Idaho Springs included, actually slightly decreases the county's building permit fees, but that doesn't include things like our planning review fee for the planning department. It doesn't include things like our site development, review fees, and it doesn't include things like, our environmental health review fees. So that's specifically just building permit services. So those are things that ideally you would charge for separately from the building permit and collect those fees anyways. If you want to continue with this 20% return, to municipality, then it would be a slightly higher increase, but they would understand that they're not paying those other associated fees that they would be with Clear Creek County or potentially Idaho Springs, whatever they decide to do.
Right, so we would want to be able to give you some estimate of what that 25% would be. And then you would want to be able to affirm that that was going to cover the services you were going to be providing, whatever you provide for site development, environmental health, and planning. And, you would want to be able to know that, and so, or you would want to decide that you would rather create a fee schedule and cover, and identify what your costs were and cover them through fees that you collected yourself. I think there's not a right answer.
But besides safe build, the safe build piece and the inspection piece, does collaborating with you with this, does that give us any reduction in staff time? Is it less work now on KJ or Jen or whoever is processing any of this? Do we see a gain in that?
I expect the way that they've described it, I haven't seen their system, but they are describing handling all of the submittals, which right now I'm handling the submittals. So right now they turn in the building permit to me, I process the fee, I make sure all of their submittals are there, and then I hand it over to Safe Build. They would be doing that, so that process would be.
So we have to find other things for you to do then.
I guess I have a question. I wasn't there this morning because we had staff discussions, and so it's been a busy week.
Oh, very good.
What assurance do we have that we're not gonna skip a process, especially for the DRC? Because normally we handle that and we know our system really well. So what assurance that we're not gonna skip, that they have to be a certificate of appropriateness, that is appropriate for Georgetown's guidelines?
Right, so with the Clear Creek County or the Georgetown permits, they're going to be required to provide us with their certificate of appropriateness for those permits that we predetermined that we need to provide that certificate for. We're gonna have a permit technician that audits those submittals and make sure it's not a photo of a cat. And it's actually for the address that they're applying for and that you have actually reviewed it. And then we also have an opportunity to put a member of Georgetown staff on our review, so they can review and ensure that the DRC submittal matches the construction documents that we receive. And so they'll have to sign off on that, and then our building codes department will also have to sign off on it. And that would be the assurity that we wouldn't end up with a bright purple or pink building downtown, whatever the requirement might be.
That's the only thing we don't have.
They also,
You gotta have a scallop on your shed, no pink or purple, no problem.
They also have a step before the CO is issued to ensure that we have to approve it before a certificate of occupancy is issued.
You have a staffing on board now to handle this if Georgetown Idaho Springs comes on with you?
We are going to employ a permit technician. It's been budgeted for the next fiscal year, so we're going to start the hiring process for that individual permit.
So the other question I had was just, I want to know what the costs, like we look at normal things of what we would charge for a building permit through Safe Built, and then, you know, of course, everything goes to them and then we get the 25% back. What's the difference between Safe Built and what the county's gonna charge? Between, you know, and I know it does fluctuate.
Permit costs.
Yeah, the permit cost. What would be, is there an increase in permit cost? Is it gonna be the
So
same?
the difference would be the permit fee schedule that you've currently adopted for your building permits. So we could take that and we can do a direct comparison to what we've calculated with what we're assuming our construction
Yeah.
valuation is gonna be in our costs. Because right now, everything's a projection right now, because we're changing our permit fee schedule. But our permit fee multiplier, I think, came out to 1.74% of total construction valuation. So if you guys want to take that number and crunch it into a construction project, a hypothetical one at $100,000, you know, that's $1,740. So then you would just take your permit fee schedule you currently have and then figure out what that fee would cost them. So.
And then based off of that, too, you had, on permit fees, with Safe Built, they provide, along with their permit, the inspections, or not permit fees, but inspection fees. Up until typically, they give you one inspection, if you fail that inspection, they will charge. They've never really went back and charged people, and a lot of that's balanced out because they can only do 2 days a week. A lot of times we were doing partial inspections, just to try to make it all work. With you guys obviously doing every day, people could wait that extra day, finish up that part of the job. Do you guys charge, is there a price onto that, onto the building permit fee for inspections also, or is there a certain amount included in?
So we do have a certain amount included in, and in our building permit fee is also gonna include plan review. So there's not an additional plan review fee that's coming down the road after the building permit fee. We do have provisions to, charge trip fees for inspections, but we don't go down that road until somebody's very egregious about not providing the correction that we've asked them to. So if we have, say, 4 trips out for the same correction, at that point, we might charge a wasted trip fee and collect $100 when they start wasting our time. It's not our idea to collect additional fees for inspections.
Basically how you guys been, because I forget, it's been a few years since I worked in the county, but basically how you always operate in the county.
Yes, we're very customer service related. It's important for us to provide excellent customer service to the contractors and to the citizens of Clear Creek County, because construction is expensive and it's cost prohibitive, and it's hard enough as it is without an ally in the county that's applying these regulations. Not to say that we're going to not enforce certain regulations and we're gonna let things go, but it has to be a collaborative effort between us and the citizens.
One concern I did have was they will not be collecting use tax, which is something that we were collecting through Safe Built's bill. So that'll be something we need to brainstorm as far as what part of the process we collect use tax. And it might be that we just don't use any instant issue permits and they just have to come talk to us for each one.
We're just working out with the county. Correct.
I think they're not allowed to collect.
Well,
use
no, but
tax.
I'm just saying that part of it, we just work with the town, maybe when the permit gets issued or something, that's just something that we, because technically, then as a builder, then do we pay the county? Because right now we pay the town.
Yeah.
And even though Safe Built takes everything, so now we'll pay the county, so then off the use tax, maybe that's just something that just gets paid to the town, obviously, since the town can collect that.
Right.
And that would just be maybe a separate item on there.
Lexi did say that the way, because we also use SIPA, and I believe your payment system is SIPA,
Yeah.
that you guys could set it up that it like auto splits and pays us out, but I don't know if you can do that, like if you itemize something as use tax, if that'll automatically go to us or not, or if it's just a percentage split.
So that's, I don't think we can collect the use tax for Georgetown. But Georgetown's gonna have to collect that use tax on their own, and that might just support the reason for everything to have that prior approval before it even comes to the county.
But also too, they should, I mean, wouldn't that, because they're not gonna take over the water and sewer capping either. So maybe that can be lined up.
But we
right with
only
that.
charge water and sewer tap for new homes.
Well,
Yeah,
true, but I'm
use
thinking
tax
of,
for everything, so.
gotcha, but I'm just along those guidelines of new construction, if that's a separate item already, maybe it's just those two couple of things. You know?
I think that, if it's coming back to Georgetown, that's when we would pay. If we have to do our last sign off, it's like, oh, by the way, last thing that's left is use tax. You know, I don't think that's gonna be an
At the
issue.
end of the project?
Yeah.
Not only we're gonna wait until the end, and say, oh, by the way, you still owe us dollars and dollars.
Or immediately it gets kicked to us, you know, from the very beginning of saying, oh, it's, you
Once the
know.
review's done.
Well,
Yeah.
It is something we're gonna have to figure out. This may not be the best forum to nail down that detail. I think, Amanda, your suggestion of another work session with DRC and planning in the.
I think if we got one, we should start at our traditional work session time if possible, or even like a 5:30 start, and then. Because it's a little,
Yeah.
it's a little funky, I mean, it's not a problem to have an audience for work sessions, but they're tedious and, you know.
Yeah,
Work sessions.
right.
Well,
So-
sorry, one quick thing is my head gets stuck on something, it just does, but. You know, so one last quick question, once you guys go through the process and basically the permit is right, if it goes back to the town and it's issued from our town, then that would be a perfect time, because when we can't get a permit, we pay our water and sewer tap fee. That could be the perfect time for that, and then I'll leave it at that, but that fits that process of it's all done, which it should be before we get a permit, you know, which I always
For
love.
some cases that may work. And I think,
On paper, fine.
I think that's great. We're also gonna be trying to get an IGA draft in front of you, and that may be a little bit further developed, and that might be something when we come back that we can talk about, have that part of the conversation as well. It sounds like you are all generally amenable to continuing this for the site, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
If we're gonna schedule a work session, I would like to see, like, what are we taking in on that use tax? What are we getting back on that 25% for safe build, especially we're discussing budget. I think it's important to have all the numbers.
Oh, exactly, for projections and stuff, so
Yes.
that we know if we're looking at January 1st or shortly thereafter.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah. Lock and load.
Great.
All right, okay, well, then, thank you.
Share those documents with the rest of the.
Yeah, they have all.
Okay,
The only thing I didn't share was that like 100-page document that he sent me. He sent me like,
Oh, the contractor license, was it the contractor license permits, or was it the,
no,
building code?
I think it's building code.
Building code.
Yeah, I got the building, I gave him that one, but one was like 100 something pages. I was
Yeah.
like,
Building code.
Building code amendment.
Rick, I would love to see that, you can forward that.
If you want it, I
can
will,
see it
I
and tell
will
us what
email
it
it.
says.
It's a great read.
So Rick is,
Direct this
I'll work
lead.
with David and I will work with Rick and Paige on what numbers you guys
Okay.
will want, and if there's anything that we can provide, please let us know, and we want to make sure you have the information that we need, that you might need. So you can, and then we would be happy we would be there for your next work session.
Yeah, let's get a work session sooner, because it's gonna take a while when they're going chocolate.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
That's why-
This has been a conversation that the county and Highland Springs and I have had for a year.
And we've been having them for longer than.
It's we're just now at that place to start.
Page if you have
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Well, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for altering your schedule, and thank you to everybody
All right.
who was here late for a real meeting and had water.
Because they live by the.
All right. So let's go to the next agenda item, which is 1.
1A.
1A, welcome Dan, Spector as new police chief, and amendments to the employee contract A, requesting a waiver to allow take home patrol vehicle out of Clear Creek County. You wanna talk about that and, or
Yeah, I think
split them in half?
Lord, ought to hear from you and tell them what you think and.
Yeah, that's
they can
fine.
Discuss and take an action.
I can stand if it pleases the board.
If you want to.
You don't have to.
Actually, I will because the wooden seats. So it is pretty simple. Some things I would take issue with the details of some of the letters, but anyway, as far as this goes, yes, I was under the impression, so I was told a 30-minute response time to Georgetown. And I was under the impression, since I wasn't familiar with geography, that 30 minutes would put me in Clear Creek County. So when that stipulation was put in the contract, I didn't think twice about it because I thought 30 minutes was within that Clear Creek County. Then after talking to Rick and kind of seeing where 30 minutes really was, and trying at length, so the community understands and you understand, my wife and I trying at length to find residency here and then Idaho Springs and other places that are close. That was not feasible. It was not happening, you know, due to cost, due to people not contacting us back, no availability in some sort of circumstances. So anyway, we ended up 1 air mile outside of Clear Creek County, 3 minutes drive time outside of Clear Creek County. The response time from the location, which I'd like to keep private, but somehow the world found out it's evergreen. It's a 24-minute drive with traffic without a patrol car, which is within the 30 minutes that I was told. I believe it was by the board, or at least during the interviews, that was the residency requirement. So I ended up 1 air mile outside, 3 minutes drive time outside. It's still within the 30-minute residency requirement. And obviously there's multiple reasons for taking vehicles. I mean, you're looking at liability. If you expect me to respond in an emergency, if I'm in my personal car, well, the city would incur potentially some liability if I ended up in a car crash with, you know, a private vehicle without lights and sirens on it. This is not a vehicle I plan on, you know, taking out to the movies and things like that. It's a vehicle that's, you know, for work use. So that's the waiver. We already had approved that. It's just the waiver of the mile, the 1 air mile, the 3-minute drive outside, which is still within the 30-minute response time that I was told. Just point of clarification, in the job announcement, nowhere did I read it said you had to be a resident of Clear Creek County or within the city of Georgetown. If that would have been a requirement, I guess we would have needed a little more time to find those places. But my wife and I put forth a ton of effort over 3 or 4 days up here. We did not vacation here. And unfortunately, it was not a vacation. It was very much work related, and we tried very hard because my intention was to live here in the town, and it may be someday. It's just we couldn't make it happen in the time that we had. So that's where we're at on that vehicle.
Thank you. More comments?
Oh, I have a comment.
Okay, how about it?
One, I think we have to recognize the fact that this is the chief of police and he's an emergency responder, and where it may not apply to other police officers down the line, I think for him, he needs to take his own car. If he's out in his personal car and has to, you know, respond back to, you know, he's gonna delay response to the call. I also looked up in our job posting back on April 9th, when we got the information from KRW. I went through the pages that I believe were published elsewhere, and I could not see anything in here about a residency requirement. I do know that we encouraged you to live in the county. You know, we certainly encourage you to live in Georgetown. And I can certainly understand that it's gonna take some time to find a place here. If he even met the requirement of living in the county, if he found a home up at Crane Murphy, he would be further drive time than he is now at the location that you temporarily selected if you're renting, right? You haven't bought.
Yes.
Same with St. Mary's. So I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that being even in the county is not necessarily a great benefit for him to get here on a timely basis. You know, but if he's in a squad, whether it's marked or not, it affords him the opportunity to get here faster,
to use the express lanes where if he's in his personal car, he can't use his, the express lanes unless we're gonna get charged for that. So, I mean, I can go on and on and on. I know you don't wanna hear me go on and on. To me, this is a no-brainer,
I think it satisfies the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish, which is the 30 minutes or less, and so I'm fine with it.
I could see where we could, I would make a motion and make some changes to this, slightly, and as the chief has indicated, I could see us putting restrictions on it, that it isn't for his personal use if he's going out to the movies. Good luck finding a theater close by, if you haven't found that already. Then there's an expectation, and I think there's a liability issue, for him and the town, that it isn't really for that type of personal use. We're really giving it to him for the quick access from his home to Georgetown, whether it's coming on duty because he's gonna be able to respond faster, or whether he's just, getting here and making that.
I just don't know how you write that, because we do want him to be able to respond quickly.
Unless that car is equipped, and I'm gonna put words in your mouth, and correct me if I'm wrong. Unless he has his uniform and all the equipment in that car, he's gonna have to go home and probably grab that unless it's at the station or the department. There's sometimes, or if he's off duty and he's at a restaurant with his wife, and heaven forbid, he's had a cocktail, we want to open up the door to that. And so I could see, to satisfy some concerns, we could put some parameters on that. That's why we have an attorney that sits here and helps us with the wording on that.
Makes no.
If no one else has a problem with it, that's fine. I just think that we've been looking at liability so much lately that, it's a factor that we should take into consideration.
If I may, and I would
Yes,
defer to
please.
the attorney, but the way I have seen it worded previously, and it worked fine for me before, but this is different. Well, it's a different town, state, for work use. You just put it in there, and he may have some more articulate words legally, but take home vehicle for work use. And that I think encompasses what, because if we start putting uniform in there, well, there's gonna be times I'm not gonna have a
Right,
chance to
exactly,
put
and
a
I
uniform
and
on.
that's what I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
lead you to that.
So I think, and again,
I'm fine with that. The note I made was for official business.
Yes.
For, town business is gonna be fine. And there's plenty of case law that says, look, if you're in a town vehicle and you're clearly, there's a great case that says that folks are on a frolic of their own, a couple of public works crews drove a snowplow to another town and got in trouble. That's on them. The fact that it was in a town vehicle did not raise liability for the town, because it's all about, well, why were you guys in the snowplow, in Lakewood? And the answer is, well, we were on a frolic of our own. So, taking too long to say, we can insert, for official business, and that honestly is gonna be all we need to do. I've made that note in the recommended motion.
Do we have to even then indicate the 30-minute response? Because if we do, we're limiting him for future residency where he might be in Clear Creek County and he's further than 30 minutes away.
You can do one of two things. You can leave it the way it is now, and if he moves, you can adjust it.
Or
Right.
if we do this again.
Yes, we can do it together. Or you can take out the 30-minute. I do know that 30 minutes was, generally made known to people, and I
And
think
I think that
in terms of.
or in Clear Creek County.
Very.
And
perfect.
I think one of the
That-
things
that's
that,
fine.
oh, I'm so sorry, Jared, I didn't mean to
No.
cut you off, is it's important to kind of name that this is such a big transition, and all of us want to see this transition go really, really well. And I think that it's also important for people to understand, and Tim started to touch on this earlier, is that we do have coverage within other agencies. And there has been times that our previous, even fully staffed department, when we were fully staffed, that we had to deploy those people. to come in and support us because there wasn't officers available, because somebody was sick or somebody was out of town and, you know, our previous acting chief, he took vacations, rightfully so, that's important, it's a very important thing. And the sheriff's office has not hung us out to dry and said, you are on your own, Georgetown, good luck with that, you know, whatever is occurring, you know, and there's certain things that probably, I would imagine, are put on response delay, like a stolen license plate or something that's minor, but if there's an active crime in progress, I don't think we're gonna have we haven't, not to the best of my knowledge, had that situation. And I actually did some research today with Jeff Com, and I know Lynette was able to attend the meeting, you were not at the meeting. And, you know, some of this is also a distrust of the transition with Jeff Com and some of what's happened with that transition. And I was told that we as selectmen can access the same data if requested that George Marlin access. So if we have people within this community who are like, I called Jeff Com and they failed me and nobody came to my house, you can tell a selectman, and we are allowed to go to Jeff Com and say, all we need is the date, the time, the name, and the location. And if we have those 4 things, they will pull all of the call data for us. And we as selectmen are 100% allowed to request those records. And you are allowed to request those records if concerns are raised. So I think we understand people feel a stress about this, but this is a big transition. And I think getting you here and giving you time to just get the lay of the land is completely appropriate. I do hope you come to Georgetown. It's pretty fun. It's a little windy.
It was today.
This, what? No, what? No. I hope you're able to find your here, sincerely, and I hope that it can happen soon, because I think it would be really beneficial, but I think in this temporary thing, my hope would be maybe we revisit this in 3 months and see how things are going. And if we have some type of catastrophe, we obviously have to come in sooner, but I think that if we put a time frame on this and we say, how is this going? How many times have you had to come back? What's your response time? Those types of things, and we review it, but I feel like to you know, paralyze us and pigeonhole us now isn't serving anything. This transition is happening and we have to just stop the trill and make it happen.
We have to remember too, he's not responding to calls every time.
100%.
Residents.
Yeah, there's also gonna be other
He's
officers.
like actually working here in town
Yes.
for probably 8+ hours a day.
Like, yeah,
And so this is.
there's a schedule.
Yeah.
Like you know, and again, like, you know, people leave this town. Sometimes it's healthy. No.
So the motion, in fact, it could be edited to add, after take patrol vehicle to his home for official business, then located within 3-minute response time when the city limits of Georgetown or within Clear Creek County. If you made those changes, it would be ready to go.
Second.
Wait, sorry, before we call, is there,
Have discussion.
We'll have a discussion.
God, okay, I jumped the gun.
That's all right. I have first and second.
Discussion on the motion.
Discussion on the motion.
I just want a caveat in there that we revisit 90 days, or, you know, if we need to, like, is 90 days, should we revisit it or not?
Revisit the idea of
See where we're at in 90 days,
opening him to take the vehicle.
just like a review. If, maybe I'm, okay,
How about informal?
informally, perfect, everyone's looking at me like,
That's all right. Okay, so all in favor? So that's unanimous. The second item here is
7B.
7B, or 1B. Extend a housing stipend from the 6 months to a year and not receive any relocation and reimbursement. Comments on that?
Chief, I think you just need to. Word what's on your mind.
I can explain that. So when Rick and I had originally discussed during contract negotiations, we discussed a certain amount of money had been allocated. So I had mentioned extending the housing stipend, and he said, well, we could do a couple things. The money's here for this, so either you could have the moving expenses, you could have a year, if you recall this conversation, I recall where I was, but, or we could do a year of that with no moving expenses. And at the time I had said, I'll take the moving expenses and I'll do this, the 6 months housing stipend. I've since, my wife and I have discussed it, you know, based on the amount, the high cost of housing, everywhere. I think it's gonna end up costing you $500 more, outside of that moving stipend, because the moving stipend was $2,500, and the 6 months, I believe, was $3,000. So I think it ends up incurring an additional 500, but I would then waive any moving cost, and it would just go to a housing stipend. Again, there was, to my recollection, there was no requirement for that housing stipend to be within the county or any of that nature. Yeah, if it was, believe me, we would still be looking for a place and because those were things that got us here to help, well, me here for now. So, that's what I'm looking to do. I just waive the moving because I don't think, honestly, I'm probably gonna use it with the way we're gonna be moving kind of systematically, incrementally would be the proper term, over a period of 6 months or more. So I just figured it'd be a better use of the funds to help offset that cost.
Okay.
My lease is for a year anyway, so it kind of just made sense when I started actually looking at it retroactively, thinking, yeah, it would really be more helpful to have that versus the moving expenses.
Right, well, we allocated the money, so the money stays the same except for the additional $500 for the year. Any other comments on that from the board?
But it's not an additional 500, we're just transferring the 2,500 to make it a stipend, so it's like 11 months of a stipend or 12?
Yeah.
Well, you could do 11, that's fine, whatever, it is. I'm not trying
It's just easier to.
yeah, I'm not trying to incur you any additional costs. If you wanna cut it to 11 months and that would save you, and it would be the exact amount, then that would be great. I'm sure the public would appreciate
I
that.
think, that would be a good idea.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, the idea was to support you to help, because they're not necessarily supporting the place that you're running.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I
and
mean,
we allocate it in a different way, yeah.
So there's a recommended motion here.
There's a motion, the only change we would make would be to change the 12 to the 11 in the second line.
Do I want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. You don't need it.
Yep, you got it there. You got it.
So I move to approve many Dan Trexler's contract in section 3, subsection 3. To be, Trexler will be paid 11-month housing stipend of $500 per month, commencing with the first month of employment, set forth in section 1. Deleting section 3, subsection 3, which involved removing expense reimbursement.
Second.
I got a first and second. Do you have any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's
Can I say the
unanimous.
last name, sir?
Tractor, the CH is like a K.
Like a tractor? but-
Close.
Tractor. Tractor.
Yes.
So we can learn to say it right from the start?
Most people are, I'm very flattered that a lot of people have learned.
Well, we
it.
had practice when we hired our town administrator with a.
I still haven't learned that.
Acquired skill.
Yeah.
But, thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
So we're on, item 2. And, who's gonna handle that?
Me,
Great.
who better to handle marketing events than marketing and events? No, I got your award for marketing and events. Jen, we wanna go through the PowerPoint or no? Don't worry, I don't want it. We've been here long enough, and I'm like a plant and the sun is down. So thank you guys so much for being here with me tonight. I know these meetings can run long.
Do one on us, yes, that's great.
See how many plants I have. Georgetown to me has always had a special place in my home. I know I only got here about May last year, but November, the year before, I was going up to a retreat up in Summit County for my old job, and you have the most beautiful sunrise, and I had to pull over at Georgetown Lake and take a picture because it was so beautiful, and I like safety. But of course, I kept going on my way, and quite literally 6 months later, I ended up here. I didn't know that something so gorgeous and something that was 2 seconds off the highway would be so meaningful to me today. So from getting here, it's been a whirlwind. I think my second month, I quite literally joined the CTO's Colorado Tourism Leadership Journey. This was about 20 different individuals in our field and industry, from food and bev, ski, towns, DMOs, and all over. It worked really hard this time. You see my degree.
So not only did I get to graduate from this program, this previous Colorado, no, what was it, GovCon, or Tourism Industries Conference, I was honored with the CTO's Rising Tourism Star Award. This is there's a video in there that explains this much better than I can, but essentially this is given to somebody who showed significant strides in our industry with under 5 years into their belt. With my previous roles in here, I probably have about 3.5 now, and I can't wait to see where we are going. I think it was truly incredible, not just to have one of my own peers there with me, supporting me throughout the conference, but truly some of you, Mary Smith was on my board, Rick helped hire me, Amanda transitioned from my board here, and all of you have had an impact on me one way or another. So, as much as I wanna say this was about me, I will also say this was about we. So, I'm excited to get back, see feedback, see what things we can bring up from our previous, conference and just keep going. So, Mr. Boat?
Yeah, it's like that. I'm not gonna read the entire press release, it's too long, but, I'd like to express the importance of this award to all of you. This is a $28.1 billion industry. It is $1.8 billion directed locally to municipalities within the state. These were the leaders of this industry there. Luckily, we have people there who are leaders in this industry. It was a room full of 400 people. There were lots of people who were put up for this award and just was able to get it to represent our town. We'll share the video with you privately so that you can for sure see it, since it's not up here. I want you to see it. I'll make sure you see it. You've met me. But if you'll indulge me for just 1 second, I'm gonna read my quote in the press release that's going out that shows off our town again through the tourism board. Georgetown is thrilled to see Jess recognized for her contributions to the tourism industry, said Paul Bowe, director of the Georgetown Trust and member of the Merchants Commission. Their commitment to tourism exemplifies the spirit of innovation, stewardship, and leadership that drives our local tourism industry forward. It was a privilege to watch her grow over her short time here and then receive a standing ovation from so many peers in the industry. Get a standing ovation from the leaders in the industry. And something I said at the promotions commission meeting was, it's a bunch of people sitting there trying to get through their dry salmon and through these awards, and they're very jaded. And we rarely get that kind of thing from somebody. Jess really showed herself, and people stood up and yelled for her. It was wonderful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. I will show you how you properly hold the award and most of the pictures. Backwards. Any, big one? Yeah.
You were admiring it, that's why.
I really was snorting in Tim Wolf's ear the whole time, just being uncomfortable, and then my eyelash got in my eye, so it looks like I'm crying. It was just kind of like, this is me. There's a video from one of the people in the program that we were graduating at the conference, and you could just hear Katie going, that is just so Jess, because it's quite literally.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Great.
Thanks on behalf of Georgetown, for leading the rising.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
I think if you move the video, you'll be able to make it full screen, or like the Zoom portion.
I'm sorry. Oh, I was gonna share the screen.
Oh, okay.
But I mean.
No worries.
Okay, here it is. And it's only.
Safe stuff. Oh, no.
Haven't created art for the Did you know? And you haven't nominated them all.
Thank you for enduring this with me. I'm gonna go eat dinner and go home and see my pets and my friends. You guys have enjoyed it. And again, thank you so much for supporting me.
Awesome.
Now we get better stuff.
Now we got the streetlight project update, Strauss Point status report, number 36. I will be brief. Next, you have all, everything you need to know in front of you. First about the streetlights, not much has been happening. The streetlights for the Argentine North project, the poles have arrived. The rest of it, the pendants and the rest of it they're due by the end of October, although they may get here early, waiting on a final ship date. We've got invoiced for them, so that's always a good sign that the actual material can't be too far behind. The Argentine South Street light is to repair all the ones that are down and broken and, don't take bulbs and all that. They should be coming at the same time that the Argentine North, the rest of the parts come. So I'm expecting them by the end of October, and as soon as they get here, we'll start working with the town to get those lights fixed. On all the Argentine South Street lights, we're planning to put outlets at the top of those poles. The materials have been ordered. Some of it has started to come in, so as soon as that comes in, I'll be making up kits. And the town staff will go ahead and hang the outlets up here, cut off near the top of the pole. The downtown street lights is kind of on hold at this point. Going through all the documentation that I could find on the kind of the history there, the 18 or so streetlights that we have downtown, they're fed directly from the Excel distribution system, which means there's no metering, and they're literally capped off the lines that go through town. And it looks like they're fed from 5 different locations. In order for the town to take over ownership, even though we bought all that stuff, for us to actually own it and be able to maintain it, it would have to be disconnected from the utility and go through a meter system, just like we've done down on Argentine Street. So I'm looking into what would be involved in doing that. It's not as simple as, just disconnecting the wires and then plugging it in somewhere. We'll need to put a meter in or meters and get into this. So I'm looking into that. I haven't done a whole lot on that yet. We did find a supplier for the historic lights that we have in downtown. One of the comments that came out of Strauss Park was, what's with all those tiny little lights at the top of the big flagpoles, the big poles we put downtown? They don't match, they look really out of place with the rest of the downtown historic lighting. We could replace those, basically make them look like exactly like the ones that we have throughout the rest of the downtown. And that cost would be, I think $1,300 per light to replace that, to buy the replacement fixture. We have a couple of oddball fixtures, and now I know we can get some parts for these to fix any broken parts we have and convert them to take bulbs. That's kind of the game plan. For right now, if you wanted to proceed with replacing the 6 or 7, if you count the pendant light that's on the end of the booths down in the park, we could replace those lights now. We'll order 6 or 7 more, or 6 or 7 of the historic fixtures. And I believe we have money in the ARPA funds, because we're not gonna spend all the money that we had planned to spend for parking lot work in Strauss Park. So if there's money there to do that, that's your call. Or Rick's call, I guess, on that. So that's kind of where we stand on the streetlights. Hopefully, we'll have the Argentine stuff all done before Christmas comes. And then, the historic streetlights downtown will probably be a while, because once we figure out what to do, we'll have to go negotiate with Excel. And that will be fun.
So it looked like you found the money within the existing by savings on other things and whatnot.
Yeah, and I'll get to that on Strauss Park, where we wound up with that. Any questions that I could help clarify in the whole streetlight saga?
Amazing job.
Strauss Park looks really good, by the way.
Thank you.
Well, now we're good, now we'll go to
Oh,
Strauss
I don't
Park.
want to take your thunder, sorry.
Strauss Park is, as far as I'm concerned, is done. Close the books. Hopefully we'll get the last, she's got all the bills for Strauss Park that are going to occur. And hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll get the final report turned into CDOT, and, it'll all be history. We wound up under budget for this year's work. We actually wound up under budget for the whole project, but we wound up, on the grant funded scope, we had budgeted 306, and we came in around 298. So a little bit of money left in that pot. During the year, we moved the parking lot work, which is basically digging it out and, compacting new road base in there and putting fresh stone on it. We decided we weren't gonna do anything fancy with gravel paved and plastic grids and all that. We're just gonna go ahead and kind of do a traditional Georgetown parking lot, dirt and gravel, and, gravel the surface on it. And that the town staff would take the lead on that. And that's kind of where we are. I'd like to kind of back away. All the concrete work is done, the lights are up. Scooter knows what needs to be done over there, Kevin knows what needs to be done in the park and around it, the questions, but at this point, I'd like to pass the baton to the town to finish up the parking lot. One of the things that needs to be done is we probably should paint handicap. We got the handicap sign in there, but it'd be nice if we maybe paint that curb so people won't trip on it, paint it blue or something, and put, I don't know if we have the stencil for the handicap symbol. But I have noticed that people seem to be pretty good about just handicap vehicles parking in there. So I think that's about where we got it. All the plants are in. And I told Mary, I lied to her when I said, no more invoices, Jennifer's gonna create one. Got the hot water hooked up with the sink in there, turned everything on, and everything is perfect except the faucet that came with the sink, which, came out of Habitat. Every place that it could leak, it leaks. So rather than try and fix it, and I could find the parts, I found out who made it. You can buy parts, but it's cheaper to just buy a new faucet. So Jennifer ordered a new faucet, and when it comes in, I'll put that in, and then we're done. But the heat in the room is there, the hot water works. Just in time for us to blow everything out and shut it down, but, we'll be able to use that for Christmas market for sure. Just get disconnected. Rick?
Three things for you. Town staff are gonna be working on the parking lot this week. So,
Okay.
so that, just put that on your schedule. Kevin is gonna be blowing out the line that's connected to that hydrant thing that's in the cabinet.
Yeah.
It's gonna be blowing that out this week. And then third is I got a call today for a delivery for lighting, and there's 6 pallets, and they're gonna be bringing it to the road and bridge shop on Thursday morning, somewhere between 8 and 10.
Well, I haven't seen a packing list yet, so I will check with but it sounds like Cindy will be beside herself.
Yeah.
It sounds like our lights are on the way. That's kind of what I expected. We'd have that before we have to pay the bill, so. So we are not gonna pay the bill until we get the lights. So Strauss Park is done, and just kind of overall numbers, just, and this was really a town project, a real team effort. The original budget or cost estimate that was submitted when the plans were done by DHM way back in 2020 or 2021 was 1.3 million. This project wrapped up at just about 850,000. And I think we've done more. I know we did the whole sidewalk on Rose Street, which wasn't in there. So I'm pleased with the way things have turned out, and it's a testament to this town on what we can do by working together. Because it really is, and Dwayne built the shelter down there. And I mean, I'm really happy, and we get nothing but good comments coming back, so now let's use it. We have great facilities, we have heat, water, shelter, tables. We need to steal some of the tables back from the Wembley Park. Well, we bought tables, that was the first thing that the town bought.
Yeah.
Tables in the restaurant.
My first crime.
Yeah. For their home, you can go round them up.
Can I just emphasize, though, that we discussed the rock size for the parking lot, and so especially if you're kind of letting go of this and it's coming back to us, that if we're not using a real small pea gravel, because we don't want it in our gentle mountain breezes.
Sticking in the dreads and all that. No, we don't want
Through windows.
4-inch bollards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3/4 inch crushed stone. Just like you see on all the driveways around, it's 3/4 inch crushed stone, it'll stay.
Because we didn't want it to be an issue with the outdoor dining
Yeah.
that is already existing on Army Street and the activities at Strauss Park, so we were hoping it would be a little heavier.
It's been a year since I've lost a back windshield.
It'll put your eye up.
I've lost 5 back windshields on my car.
You should have had a restaurant downtown.
You know, right?
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. And Dwayne,
And-
officials and Ryder. There's like so
Well,
many.
Ryder still owes it, but he's.
Okay, no, thank everybody did amazing. All right.
Now we're on 5, and that would be Paul Felty.
Can I start first? I want to bring the board's attention out, 5A, I kind of made these in 5A, 5B. And so we have two things, and Paul is going to come and share more details after me, or Robert would. So we have been through this fiasco for a long time of trying to correct and amend and revise this contract. So, I mean, you have to go back to, you had tasked us to kind of work, me and Jerry, to try to negotiate. It took a long time to negotiate. Some of this is a little wonky because what we thought we were gonna have is not what they delivered to us. And so, you know, we did a lot of work on this. But there's two things in this that we wanted to bring the board's attention. One is, so the way that this works is CDOT has a contract with the town in order to do work for the visitor center. And then we receive funds for that. We don't do it, but we actually then partner and have a contract with the Georgetown Trust to actually get it done. So we become a pass-through. And so so what is here, you're gonna see two parts. One is a contract to work with the Georgetown Trust. So that's what's on the table. And then the second is they have another request for funding, but that is not an association at all with the visitor center. It's just in general, as Georgetown Trust is an amazing group, nonprofit in town that works to do many services. The old school, the visitor center is just two, but they do a lot of other things for our town. And what they're requesting is additional funds to support their projects in general, not associated with one specific. And so I just want to clarify that because when I wrote my action item, that was not correct. And it was over the weekend and a little sleep and trying to rush to get this done, even though I was trying to correct it, it's still wrong. And so I want to make sure, even in the motion, I'm striking out where it says visitor center because that is not at all what they're requesting. They're requesting funds in general, so the motion needs to be adopted or amended to reflect that. Okay, I just want to say those things, and so Robert and Paul, thank you.
Well, my name's on there, so I just, I'll have them speak for, this is Robert Smith, Chair of our board, and Missy Dixon, who is a trustee of the Georgetown Trust for Conservation and Preservation. My name is Paul Boat. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgetown Trust for Conservation and Preservation. Thank you for having us here this evening. Rick, thank you for introducing what we're doing. The contract that we presented to the town is exactly the same contract that was written for us 5 years ago. It only has dates altered. It's based on the fiscal year, even though it's coming in late in the year. It is to be retroactive to January 1st in order to meet with what we've had in the past. The reason the contract took so long to get written was because we were waiting for the CDOT contract with town to be finalized, and then we presented it to the town. On the other note, I'm going to sit back and be support to my wonderful board members who guide us every day in what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My name is Robert Smith. I'm chairman of the board for the trust. I'm gonna ask you something very simple, very clear cut, easy to do, but I'm gonna muddy the water before I do it, okay? I'm gonna take a couple minutes. Y'all have not been, many of you have not been involved in this in the past. We do this every 5 years with CDOT. If you look up the word kludgy in the dictionary, it'll say it originated to describe the relationship between the trust in Georgetown and CDOT, which is, we started a public-private rest area. We're the only one in the state. Public-private partnership with a retail shop in it. No other rest area is allowed to have a retail operation in their rest area. Because of this, the state can't put us in the rest area budget. We are funded every 5 years, a struggle to find maintenance funds or some kind of funds to help fund us because we're this kludgy private-public partnership. That's important because we started doing this in an agreement directly between the trust and the state. And about 10 years ago, the state all of a sudden went, we can't write a check to a nonprofit. We got to do it through the town or somebody in order to pay them, and then they pay the trust. So that's how we got here with the 2 contracts, which is kludgy. And it starts off with us negotiating with CDOT. We reach a pretty good agreement of what we're gonna get. And then it goes up to CDOT, it comes back to the town. Now, we had discussed, and CDOT said, okay, we'll give you a 3% annual escalator. That's what you're gonna see. Okay, so that's what we thought was coming back. It's not what came back. The contract you have, which is $475,000 for 5 years, is what came back, and no escalator. We didn't know that until we saw it after June the 30th, when the fiscal year ended. So there's no changes, there's no refunding. Does it cost us anything? Over the life of the contract, 5 years, 13,000 and some change. Not a big number. Well, it's a big number to us. We like it. So, but that's water under the bridge. That's fine. What we're here to ask is that you approve the $475,000 contract. It's what we've got. It's what will never change for the next 5 years. And we'd appreciate it in order to provide us funding to continue. That's the first thing I'm asking. The second one I'm asking, we pass these out.
Is this for the additional?
I'm sorry?
Is this for the additional 15? Is this for the additional?
Yes.
Really quick, while he's passing these out, I just want to kind of reiterate the importance of the visitor center. Since its inception in 1996, Paul, correct me if my numbers are incorrect, we have served over about 8.5 million visitors. We are one of the busiest visitor centers in the state.
Not one of them. We
Are the busiest. And in 2022 and 2023 alone, we saw 500,000 visitors each year. And of the, in 2023 of that 500, we're estimating that about 10% of those visitors made their way into town to do business here as well. So we are bringing additional business into town. So the funding that we receive is very important to the operation of the visitor center.
Thanks. And the other thing I want to emphasize, we of course pay about 30,000 a year in sales taxes to the town. Our costs, just like any other business here, have been going up. It makes it harder for us to make ends meet. It's like trying to get blood out of a stone to get more funding from CDOT since we don't fit well under their budget plans. And we've itemized what our costs are, so you can see that we average a total of about $247,000. And with this, we get the funding from CDOT, the profits from the retail shop, and with that, we fund the Georgetown Cultural Arts Program, mountain jam concerts, all kinds of things here in the town. So we are asking the town to help support us with $15,000 out of your next year's budget. And that's it. Forget about the 13,000. That's gone. So, do you owe us? You don't owe us. We're here with our hand out like anybody else, asking us to help us because we feel we do a lot for the town. Now, we do need this to be on a calendar year, instead of a fiscal year. That's important. So if I can ask that, we'd like, approval of the contract. And then on the second decision, we're asking you for 15,000 next year.
So the 15,000 is for the 25 budget.
Yes,
For the trust.
For the trust.
for the trust.
Robert, may I add to what you just said?
Jump in and add whatever you want, Paul.
As far as the trust goes, I wanted to point out that some of the things that we do that are on top of what we do with the visitor center. Through the trust or conservation, I'm not gonna read this, but we maintain leadership positions in Colorado tourism industry at the Historic Preservation Conference, which leads us to be recognized as a town, as leaders in tourism and leaders in preservation. Being busiest visitor center is only one of the things we do. Some of the things that we do as the Georgetown Trust is we support preservation projects all over the county. We house preservation monies because we are a trust. One of the things that we did is we did the Nixon and Anderson restoration with them. We are the entity that does the Santiago Mill Steward program and put the roofs on, also held the monies. What that led to partially is the 8-year, I believe, water mitigation and our watershed mitigation and soil mitigation project at the top of that mountain, protecting the town and protecting us for our future. The things that we're doing allow us as a community, because we are so well known as an organization that can make these things happen. We are known as leaders. Because we're known as leaders, it makes it easier for us as a community to get grants. I'm not saying we're the only entity that does that, but we provide those services, and forever we've been able to do that without additional support. A couple of years ago, we had a devastating flood at that building that was $75,000. We have had a large change in the cost of doing business as everybody else has had as you understandably do. We maintain low wages. We maintain wages that are in keeping with the minimums of, my salary, for instance, is the minimum salary for a non-exempt employee. And it's kept that way, and those of you who know me, I work 7 days a week. So just so you're aware, we're keeping those things in check. We are looking at reductions in costs to make sure that we're keeping things going. One of the things that we can provide for you, that we do at the trust, because we have excellent state-of-the-art equipment over at the old school. We provide meeting service, we provide meeting space to the town. We've given multiple rooms for multiple days. Every month, I believe we have at least 2 meetings that are town oriented, that are in our conference room. Those are worth $45 an hour. And plus you have me there. So because these always tend to happen when they're not on regular times. Just so you're aware of that, we are willing to, if it makes it easier for you to do this, to make an arrangement for space within there and other things that you feel that you're getting your money's worth when you're working with us. I do know that the town gives the community center about $9,000 a year in offsets for what they do. We provide service to you constantly, and we are working with other people. One of the projects that I'm working on right now, that is with that we're gonna bring the promotions commission in, is to create packets that are designed to reach out with, to meeting planners and organizations with ready-made packets of, there's a name for it, and it's 8 o'clock at night. What's that? Itinerary packets, creating interest to come here. So music at the stage, something over at the visitor center, something over the train. If you were here for several years, you know that Kevin and I, with the trust and with the Hotel de Paris, brought the National Trust up here twice. One Star Home, I catered it, and then all over town. But what we did is create a package throughout the county. That's what we're looking at doing. There's a bunch of movement on it, and I have some major leaders in the community now moving forward with us. Those are the kinds of things that we're doing for you behind the scenes, but we're just asking for a little help. Because as the trust itself, the visitor center itself pays for basically barely squeaks by on the visitor center. All that someone just did my time, that's $6,000. Every time I fix a faucet, it's $1,500. Every time, they break 3 or 4 times a year, and then the top commercial faucets. Just so you're aware of the cost of what we're doing. Anyway, we love what we get to do for town. We love working with you and with all the other organizations in this community. We are hoping that you would consider this ask that Robert has made to help us continue what we're doing and to get through the times that we're having. Thank you very much.
I would also like to add to that, in addition to the historic preservation efforts that we have with the Georgetown Trust, I think it's important to call out the fact that we are seen as leaders within different historic preservation groups within the state. And I think that only helps to elevate Georgetown as a whole with these other groups within the state.
Absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate your time.
I have a mechanical question. Do we vote on the 15,000 tonight because it goes into the 2025 budget, or is it just what do we do with that?
I think this is your budget plea for us, and we're gonna go into our budget process within the next week or two.
Yeah.
And so we take this as we look at any other, any other department that's coming in, and we review it as a whole at that time. So I'm not comfortable approving it now because it's outside of the scope of our budget process. But you're in our queue.
Thank you.
NQ is fine, and also, whatever earned us being towards the bottom of the agenda, I'm willing to do community service and elevate our posture.
I'm gonna hold it there. I'll get to your contract.
Because I know you receive your funds in a.
Through CDOT.
Yes,
Right.
and then through us.
Right.
So the terms that are here on a monthly basis, has that been consistent, or is that a new?
I don't remember writing, what I did is change the dates of Jerry's contract. And see that, and there's a clause in there that, because you presented that contract to us 5 years ago, but I thought in order to move it along.
So this is the local agency will bill the state monthly, and the state will pay such bills within 45 days. So
That's on mine. The one I signed,
No, that's the CDOT.
that's your contract with CDOT, and CDOT does not get billed monthly. You've already worked out your contract with CDOT.
So are we approving this?
You're approving the contract that I signed and gave to Rick.
Yeah, it's the short one.
And just to clarify, the motion is the contract between the town of Georgetown and the Georgetown Trust, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't even care about that one.
And that's Jerry's contract, and what it says is that payment is, and one of the reasons that we're talking about all this stuff is there's a clause in there that says that, it's weird that I read contracts occasionally. There's a clause in there that does stipulate that our payment is in association with how CDOT pays. CDOT's moving to a quarterly program with it. In the past, they used to go and pay us basically in November, and then we do a month with it, and we were paid January to December. Right now, there's a glitch where they just don't understand how the fiscal years work. The only thing that's on there is, I don't think it's stipulated in there, Jerry, but I don't know if it needs to happen. You're the one that would know this, is that it does not specifically say calendar year for 2024. And I don't know if you need that in there or not. It's exactly the same contract we signed 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it because, the way it's structured, as you point out, is that, the town pays, the trust when it gets paid by CDOT.
It was designed to completely
Whatever
protect
that
you
is.
from being,
Exactly.
having them.
It memorializes in more formal language what people think of as a pass-through.
Yeah. That's
So it does
That's
that.
right.
No, so I think it's good to go.
Any more questions for me?
Board question? Somebody want to make the motion?
I move to approve the contract between the town of Georgetown and the Georgetown Trust to continue to provide services at the visitor center.
Second.
Dwayne's got a second. More further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Once again, I want to thank you for your volunteerism and the hard work that you all do for the town of Georgetown. I sincerely appreciate it. It is great to work with you and I love the work that you do and I watch in admiration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, well,
So do we need to table the other motion since it's on our?
yeah, we should probably table it.
You can take, it doesn't matter much, you can take your motion and table it to, the budget session. Is sufficient.
So
Second.
Rich got it.
Rich got the second. Okay, so, further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Motion passes. Okay, we're on six.
We'll go with the agenda. Okay. Okay.
Jen, that's Jen.
Oh.
Oh, are you doing?
You know the action item for it.
Okay.
Appointment.
Motion
It doesn't matter, right?
Take it away.
Mike Huggins is currently an alternate for the Business Promotion Commission, and they currently have Justin Dowd as a full member of the Business Promotion Commission. However, Justin has been in extended absence for a period of time and has spoken with the chair of the commission, and they agreed that if the board wanted him to step into an alternate position, they could promote somebody else into the full position. They nominated Mike Huggins to that position, so that is what is before you, is the motion to move Mike Huggins into a full member of the Business Promotion Commission and move Justin Dowd into the alternate position.
Questions from the board?
no,
Anyone make a motion?
I'll make a motion, or I move to approve my Huggins to be promoted to a full member of the Business Promotion Commission and Justin Dowd to be appointed as the alternate member.
Second.
Mary's got the first, Amanda's got the second, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Second?
So the second one is Christian Wellbaum, has been recommended to the Board of Selectmen to fill the vacant seat on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Christian grew up in Georgetown and is passionate about improving the recreational opportunities for children in the community. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
This letter was really cute.
However, I'd like to point out that the town paid, what, 20, 30, some odd $1,000 to resurface the tennis court a few years back, and so I would just like to clarify that the tennis court is used, we have maintained it, it's expanded its use, because when the town improved it, it became a pickleball court, and that's used at least twice a week on a regular basis with a group of people that play in addition to people who drop in for tennis. So, anyway.
And with that, we'll read the motion.
I move to approve Christian Wellbaum, fill the vacant seat on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Second.
All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we're on 7.
Where did we move, Jessica and Colleen to? They're 11, they're like couple down. You can take us. Get there. We're almost there.
Staff.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and, I will just summarize this, so I'm not gonna read it. This one is, kind of an awkward situation where we had 2 projects for, water, our water department was submitted to replace 2 service lines from 9th and Rose, that area, and then 11th and Main. The service lines on Rose and 9th, and the other one was a manhole, which was on 11th and Main, so just to clarify. So what we did is we request bids from other contractors to kind of submit. We reviewed those bids and we selected Velocity. Velocity, their contract to put in here was, if you read it, it's for both projects. although it is a little wonky if you don't know what it is, but we know what it is and we understood what they were doing. It was for $50,922. When we do bids, we make it very generic, like, tell us what it's gonna cost to do your project with your rentals, your equipment needed, the materials needed, and your man hours and your employees who do the project. We do not at all, micromanage how they do their projects. And so in this case, and they kind of estimated it was gonna be about 4 or 5 weeks. But in reality, what happened was it took 14 weeks. And they ran into some complications. Some days or some weeks, they weren't even there. They had equipment sitting there. It took a lot longer than what they had originally, assessed for this project. At the end of the project, I met with their team, on site after they did the inspections to clear that everything was fine. They met with me and handed me a bill for $140,000. And that's not reflected because I gave it back to them. $140,000, because that was the real cost of the project. And they were wanting to do a change order. And I said, well, this is not normal. Normally what happens if you want to do a change order, we stop the project, we reassess it, we allow you to project what the cost is because of the situation. And then we make a determination with options, what's our best option to do this that we can afford in our budget and so forth. That's normal, but not normal is at the end of the project asking us to shift the cost from 50,000 to 140,000. And so they have communicated that, yes, they made some mistakes. They rented the equipment, and so the rental costs were really inflated. They also they paid their staff, for the project, and they were wanting to rebill us. And I said, well, hold on, that's not in my authority to go ahead and approve this. What I can do is increase this for your cost up to $10,000 will be my max that I can increase this project. That would go from 50,000 to 60,000-ish, just average. However, if you, it's your decision of how you want to do this. However, if you would have given us a bill from the very beginning, or your quote for 140,000, this would have been immediately rejected because the other quotes were around the same cost, the original 50,000. So what they had said also was, well, there was engineering costs that they had to do. There was soil testing. There was a lot of things, but I've never brought that to us from the very beginning. We would have accommodated and tried to submit documents that they needed. It wasn't requested. And so then they came back to me and said, well, we revised it. We'd like for you to take this to the board as an appeal and ask the board for the decision. This time it was revised to $98,316. And I communicated an email. You can see my email conversation with them. And I clearly communicated my best intent is to always represent what's best for the town and doing our due diligence. And that definitely is not being responsible for how we do projects. And I do recommend that we deny this project or this increasing and change order. However, that's where we are from this. I've spoke to Ryan about it. Ryan had many discussions with them. However, not once did they come to him in the middle explaining how they were running the project, the cost that were going to extend higher than what they had bidded. And it was really more of, okay, at the end of the project, they have many projects they bid out. This one, they just did not manage well. So that's where we're at.
Did they ever express to him during the course of the work that they needed to do the soil testing and with the engineer on site or whatever, right, the studies?
We received nothing.
I mean, other than, okay.
We have done many projects with them over the years. They have always been a good reputable company. We understand we'll continue to use them, but in this situation, we didn't have any of those conversations.
Any other comments? I think we should deny it too. I think that we accepted their bid, and we did that in good faith, and they didn't come back and give us any idea that the bid was not gonna work any longer for them. Somebody wants to make a motion with the denying there.
I move to deny the request from Velocity to amend the contract price from $50,922 to $98,816. Second.
Got a first and second, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Nine.
now we're on 9. Amending the fee schedule regarding excavation permit.
Okay,
Who's got that?
that was. So I
That's
think
usually-
what we. Skip, okay. Okay, so I've been talking with, Ryan and Scooter. And we all agreed that the, excavation permit fees should be raised. They haven't been raised, I think it was since 2006. And so we all know that, fees go up, and I researched what other municipalities did, and we came up with, for our type 1, which is just a single excavation, it was $50, and we'd like to raise it to 200. And then the type 2, which is a blanket annual permit, was 125, and we'd like to raise that to 500. And then, the inspection fees, scheduled, they were 25, we want to raise them to 50, and unscheduled was 50, we'd like to raise it to 100. And then the bonds, our bonds were only at 200, and we wanted to raise those to 2,000, because if they did leave the, project and we had to repair it, it would be way more than $200. So we just felt like these fees were outdated, and we wanted to catch up with the rest of the world. And so that's pretty much
And you're
it.
saying that's pretty similar to the other municipalities?
Yeah.
So the current, when you gave us the current cost, and I appreciate that, for the inspection fees, the numbers you gave us are the same as what you're.
I didn't put in what the numbers were before, I just put in the new numbers. So, sorry about that, I should have put in what they currently are. But they currently are 25 and 50.
Okay,
My bad.
that's okay, I just.
On type 1 and 2.
Yeah,
All right, so there is an increase there, that's what I just wanted to make sure that we actually were.
yeah, because it takes time for Scooter to go inspect these
Right.
jobs, I mean, it's going to $25,
Okay,
Sounds good.
further questions for the board? All right, there's a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 13, series 2024. Second.
We have a first and second, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that, effective immediately?
No, the resolution says when it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, resolutions are always effective upon,
So let's see, we're at 10, Excel easement. Staff want to talk about that?
Is KJ, was there anyone think that?
sure, this easement is to allow them to relocate some power lines along the Twin Elk Path up there for the family movement project. And as articulated to us, they need a little bit more space on either side of the right of way. The right of way gives them a fair amount of room, but there are some places based upon alignment. I think there's a map in the packet. You need to get outside of that a little bit, and that's the reason they need the easement. I've reviewed their easement, it's correct, and it's not too bad in the sense of allowing the property owner, which is us, to continue to use the property for any use not inconsistent with their use. And, I think I look for those sorts of things in easements, so it's actually, I think it's actually, fine with the town that approved, the approved easement. We asked Ryan, I think, KJ, do we not,
We did.
The only concern I have is, well, if we've got facilities, you know, in this area, I really doubt it, because it's up on, we have Fast Road, but we have any facilities in the area. I'd want to make sure that there was not a conflict, but there aren't any currently, so with the, I think we should support actually their projects and get that in and we can move on.
So the poles will be permanently relocated to the other side. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I saw it.
Yeah,
So it's out of the viewscape now too.
yeah.
And one of the other two things just to add is, once they put those two big pipe, bypasses in, that's 48-inch lines, then they're gonna put a ramp over it. And by the time a truck were to go up the ramp, they would be hitting one of the lines. So it's so high, it was gonna cause issues. That now would be taken off, and it increases our view state too.
So I think there was a package.
I see.
I
a
move
motion.
to, oh,
Go ahead.
I move to approve the Excel easement agreement for the parcel described in exhibit A.
Second.
We have a first and second, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We are on 11 now.
Jessica, planning, you're up.
You're up. No, sorry, I had to wait.
Okay. Okay, hi, thanks for having me back. I'm again here for childcare and the funding for the budget for 2025. And again, with the group expanding early care and learning in Clear Creek County, we've made a lot of progress.
Can you just put your name on the record one more time?
Oh, sorry, Jessica Tribbett, Ward 1, 3.
You're one.
Ward one. So expanding early care and learning in Clear Creek County is the nonprofit organization I'm a part of that's looking to expand childcare in Clear Creek County. So EECL is the acronym I'll use for short. In front of you, you have paperwork, or you should have a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Okay, great. This you might recognize. Or wait, is there, did I not, this one? Do you have to say that?
2 pages.
No, sorry, that's for a second request.
Is there something else?
There was something I emailed you earlier today. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, Rick. I should have let you know.
I'll go ahead and-
So I can just kind of talk about it a little bit. You might remember it's the exact same numbers from last year's request when we were trying to get the GCS summer childcare running. And I'll just kind of give a little background while Rick is doing that. The overall request that I had gone to the county for was $44,000, and that was to run the GCS program for a total of, oh, that's what I was just looking at, 26 days. At 26 days, Monday through Friday, throughout the summer at the highest, like, kind of teacher pay rate to like really incentivize staffing for the summer. So the Board of Commissioners actually ended up setting aside $40,000 for that we, EECL donate, put in $7,000. So for the summer and the fall, we were able to give out $47,000 worth of scholarships to families, starting kind of the first ever scholarship program.
And you guys have distributed those funds?
The fall semester funding is being held up right now, and I'll actually talk about that, because we can actually talk about that spreadsheet that you guys do have. So the problem is they forgot Schools Foundation was overseeing the distribution of that. The total fall amount going out for scholarships is $37,000. I believe there were 9 Georgetown families, totaling like $17,000 is what our community is getting from that. They forgot to account for administrative costs. So now we're 2,180 some over the budget. So the proposed solution to this is unfortunately to less each applicant $120. And like you can imagine, for some families, that's very impactful. My first, that was gonna be my second proposal, but now my first proposal for this year is to see if the Board of Selectmen would approve $1,080 to be sent to the Georgetown Community School to cover those, the Georgetown families for the 120 loss of administrative fees from the scholarship program distribution.
So that's for 20
This one, so sorry, I jumped ahead because we're missing the other spreadsheet. This is for 2024.
2024.
So this would be, so basically the funds can't be released until they account for that $2,189 amount. So right now, the only way forward really is that less 120 per family. There were 17, I think I mentioned 9 Georgetown families, and then that unfortunately still leaves 12 families at Barely Tall that my group will either find funding for through some other means, but that's not the Board of Selectmen's, problem.
Where is that coming from though? Who else are you approaching for the difference?
Well, I mean, it would come out of, right now, the only solution is that it will come out of those families at Barely Tall's, $120 for those families. We're talking about either approaching the county to try and figure that out, but basically the answer is that to get the funding out as soon as possible, the funding would be less 120 per family, because they need to get that accounted for before they release the funds, and it's almost, it's September already. Oh, and this scholarship funding goes through December 31st.
So basically what you're asking us to do is fund the budget shortfall.
For just the Georgetown.
Just for Georgetown.
For specifically for Georgetown families.
Yeah,
And that would be $1,080 total.
yes. Because there's 9 families times, 120 per applicant is the less.
Well, that is, oh, go ahead.
No, I think the biggest concern I have, like, in the immediacy is that we haven't been able to vet this with our town treasurer. I'm certainly not like against it, it's pretty negligible, but I would want to see like where we're at with the lodging funds, and then I think we would also need to see some type of flow through to know, like, I mean, do we just cut a check to GCS, like, how does that work? Like, what's the strategy? Does the money go to the county, who's then gonna fund it to your group, like, where, do you know the path through?
Well, I mean, the pass-through could be that it goes to school foundation, or, I mean, the way the scholarship works is it just goes directly to the caregiver, so I think you could just give it to GCS. So all the scholarship funds will go directly to GCS.
I have to think.
But if it's easier, well, right, so the whole reason the county commissioners gave the money to the schools foundation is because they can't pay directly. And then next year, our group will be handling the money, ideally.
I'm going to switch my hat now.
Yeah.
Okay, so from a GCS perspective, the only way that could come in legally would be probably via donation. Like, I'm just trying to think of how that would, like, we have people that donate to the school all the time, but the town doesn't.
But they're not releasing the funds right now because there's.
That's what I'm saying, so like if we, so that's where I can't figure out,
So I
if
would,
we put the money back to GCS or the schools foundation.
I would want a letter from whomever with the assurance that if we do approve these funds, not tonight, maybe next time, whatever, when we.
I think it has, I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I think
really.
it has to be next time, unfortunately, just because we need to.
Oh, I can appreciate that, but that it's paid, whoever it's paid through, that the assurance is that they're gonna release the other funds. Because otherwise, we're paying $1,080, which I realize is not, close to what, but if they're withholding funds to pay, then it hasn't released their funds, and if you haven't been able to come up with the entire the entire amount of money, our $1,000 isn't gonna help release the 37,000 or whatever that's still gonna be held,
So this is why I think what we'll angle for is because those funds need to be released, like it's been too long already, it's been over a month.
And I'm sorry, who has possession of these funds?
The schools foundation.
Schools,
Schools.
the school. So that's,
Yes, they're building one
that's
over.
the Clear Creek Schools Foundation, right? That's Mitch Hoffman's group, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think I think what we're gonna kind of work on recommending as a group is to release the funds, less the 120 per applicant. And then so then they're recovering their costs, right? It's released because they've accounted for this 2,000 by minusing the 120. And then this group somehow reimburses the Georgetown families, whether it's through EECL and we push it to the Georgetown, or you donate it to Georgetown. But I don't know as if I agree with Mary, like, I don't think you need to give the money for schools foundation, wait for the rest of it to come in. Because we just need to get the money out.
What would have to happen, honestly, to keep it clean, would be if the town gave it to the school, then the school would rebate tuition. It wouldn't go back to families in like the form of cash. It would be a further tuition rebate, and that would be the only way to keep it clean. But
Yeah.
that would keep, because if you think about it, the perspective of everything about auditors,
Mhm.
and auditors have to trace every tax dollar in a certain way. And so because it's tax dollar to tax dollar, it has to be very, very cleanly defined.
Yeah, and that's how the scholarship funds work too. It's not like the school is the conduit that gives the check to the families.
Exactly.
They just like don't charge them the full amount of tuition.
And is the school foundation, do you know, are they reimbursing Georgetown through PPR, or are they reimbursing Georgetown through?
It's actual lodging tax money from the county.
No, but I'm saying like, so how is that, do you have any idea how the pass-through is being?
Oh, how they're doing their
This is a
pass-through.
pass-through problem that we're kind of trying to resolve here.
Oh.
That's what I'm asking that because that impacts our ability to make a good decision.
Oh, interesting. I don't know how the school's foundation is planning on doing.
So I think like my preference would be to put you on like a formal agenda item with the dollar request, you know, it's 1,080. With a verification of pass-through and some type of backing from the school's foundation. That would be my recommendation. And I also know that would keep it clean for GCS.
Okay.
Can you just say that one more time, because you need verification,
Sorry, yeah,
and then
let
what
me-
was the second part?
So we need the dollar amount, we need verification of the pass-through from the school's foundation.
The school's foundation?
Yeah, so it's the Clear Creek Schools Foundation is the umbrella 501c3 that is supporting early education efforts, early childcare in the county. And they do support Georgetown even though we're a charter, and so they have the ability, I think. But again, my concern is that we arbitrarily hand over $1,080 without having a backing of where it's being designated. That's my concern. It's a worthy thing, it's an important thing with our lodging tax, and I would ask you to look at it, and if you want me to look at it with you, well, you know.
I looked at it just briefly this morning. I'm still in very rough draft form with all budget numbers, but proposed balance in the workforce housing fund at the end of 2024 is estimated to be 66,000.
So hypothetically, 1,080.
Unless, but you know,
I'm saying.
I talked to Jessica this morning about this also, because you've been entertaining the idea with the
Housing authority.
the housing authority, thank you very much.
Exactly.
So, and then keep in mind, anything that you expend out of there, you have to have 3 months fund balance still in there.
Correct.
So,
If you wanna make time next week for you and I to look at the numbers, since I have a little bit of a handle on both organizations, like finances.
yes,
I'm happy to.
well, I will have, in theory, I will email you all the draft budget, and then after you receive that, you can, we can set a time,
Okay.
and pretty.
I do recognize, I mean, and we do see the impact for families. Georgia came in right at 70 kids this year, which was exactly our projected budget. We would have liked to have eked over a little bit higher on PPR, which is the per pupil revenue funding that comes in from our state sources. And so we're not in a position to buffer preschool families, and they are incredibly important, not just this is gonna sound weird how I say it, enrollment pipeline. I hate that word, but it's a very important word. But they're also, it benefits the community. So I think if we have the resources, it's worth it, but I have concerns over those.
I have a question. So this 1,080 is not a lot of money, and that would help with this fiscal
It would propel
year.
these families.
What's the plan going forward?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I have an answer for that. Well, and then just real quick before we get off of this 1,080, Amanda, do you think, because I meet with my group on Thursday and I'd like us to recommend that we move forward with the less 120 plan just to get that money out. Do you need us to wait on that for your
I
next
think that's
meeting?
between you and the universe, like.
Okay, that has
we're
nothing to
separate
do with what you
problems.
guys need for your timeline to discuss that. Okay, great.
Again, we need the documentation from the Clear Creek
Schools Foundation.
Foundation, yeah.
If they release that funds, would that be enough documentation?
Yeah, or something, or even if they acknowledge that with this portion, they can release it, because just $1,000 is not gonna help your program if that 37 is held back in hostage, because I doubt that you would be able to move forward in January, so if
What
we're
she's
looking at.
saying is like, if they vote on it to release it without the money we're asking you guys for, and it's already like being divvied out by the time we meet again with you, would that be enough documentation that they
You
did
could
that?
bring the minutes in or something.
Yeah, I think we just need to
Shows that.
demonstrate a budget shortfall, and that's why we would, that there was a budget shortfall, or funding shortfall rather. We are formally requesting the monies from the town. And then we would have to take a vote on it. With town treasurer, with the town staff would have to give us a appropriate recommendation. I mean, again, it's pretty straightforward if we can just get that little tiny.
And then you're still gonna figure out about the way to get that, what'd you call it, the pass-through, okay, cool. All right, so, yes, that 1,080 is to cover families now. The bigger, funding request I'm here for is now the budget that you have in front of you. I think if you look on, sorry, it's real small.
Sure. So this, under the blue 5-day week at the very end, the most right, the top left number of the bottom column, that 40,736.
Oh, that's everyone.
So that was what the county had approved and given us for starting, the GCS summer program. So I met with, the new director, Ms. Clem, and, Ms. Starr last week to talk about getting that program up and running. The numbers here are just for staffing. So those numbers stand. That's what I'm gonna go back to the county to ask for. They're still trying to determine based on staffing, if they can do a 4-day week, a 5-day week, other options that have been presented too. And this is, so sorry, I'm gonna transition just real quick into this Clear Creek County Action Plan. So part of those numbers too are having, weekend or evening shift hours as a possibility that they're looking into as well. And I'll talk more about how that ties into the action plan. So what we're requesting from GCS is that Ms. Starr, and I'm sorry, I don't know her formal name, that's just what all the kids call her. Shear?
Yeah.
Shear, okay. So Ms. Shear, who's the ECE director, has been working with the Carmen, who does the licensing, and knows that to get the school ready for summer programming, we're gonna need a few things. So I'll just say right out, the budget request to include hold on, I wrote down the formal language. I will request that the Board of Selectmen earmark $10,000 in the 2025 budget to help the GCS space continue the summer under 5 ECE programming. So what that 10,000 will go to, that I got information from the director just this evening, and so it's not on the budget, but I have the numbers here. There needs to be a sunshade on the playground for it to run in the summer. And also, apparently the school doesn't have AC so according to Carmen, who runs our license, we'll need air conditionings in the 2 classrooms, 2 air conditionings each. So the number for the sunshade is 5,600. That's the cost of the sunshade, not installation. And then the cost of 1 AC is $675. So that's 2,628 for all 4 ACs. No, wait, no, sorry. Nope, I did that wrong. 2,600. No, I said that right. 14. So then the total cost of getting the school ready for a summer program would be 8,222. So this would be what the 10,000 would go to, and I would ask for it to stay at 10,000 because there's gonna be some installation costs associated, things like that. This is getting the school set up to operate every single summer. So it is like an investment that has that long-term impact. The Building 103, which is the school's foundation, their program doesn't open up until fall of 2023. So we still have
2025.
Sorry, thank you, 2025. So we still have summer of 2025 to cover childcare in Clear Creek County. So I know there's been discussion with the commissioners about, GCS or Georgetown and lodging tax and all of that stuff. I feel like this 10,000 as an investment in community-focused childcare kind of gives us a little more leverage in those conversations about how we're contributing to the childcare solutions.
And so for the more long-term plan, to your point, the group, this is the narrative that my group is drafting, and we're getting, we're applying to the Buell Foundation, and we have a really good chance of getting that grant, and then applying for another micro grant of $20,000 to support this community-wide conversation to get everybody in our county on the same page, rowing in the same direction about a childcare action plan. That plan involves, put it in a cute acronym, AQUA, affordability should be, that's how we're gonna look through scholarships with some lodging tax, mostly and some grants from, I'm gonna talk to what's it called? Chamber of Commerce about annual grants. We're gonna look for other one-time grants. So scholarship is how we're gonna approach affordable. And then quality is gonna see if we can start doing teachers and paying them to be trained on the clock, because a lot of teachers have young kids and you can't go find childcare in addition to training. Usefulness is that, again, as a tourist-based economy, we have a lot of shift workers, a lot of service workers. We need Thursday through Saturday evening shifts, and then weekend coverage as well. I've been working with a group called Rocky Mountain Kids. They have a program in Evergreen. They can easily use the LDS Church, which has been vetted as a childcare center, so talking with the county on that, to do that evening and weekend programming, and they can also take in ski kids at full charge. And then the GCS piece of this would be to see if we can, talk to the Director Clem and see what we can do with the school district as far as extending some of our hours to better support our service industry workers and shift workers. And then accessibility is just where in our community these things are located. So GCS is a pretty good one for all of our DLD Silver Plume families. So this is how the bigger narrative takes shape of like how we as a county, meet our milestones, set our goals, get our funding. And so if you I didn't want to go over this in detail, but please, if you all just take time at some point to look over the childcare action plan. I put my email and phone number on it, and I would love to hear all of your criticisms, what ifs, this is the roadblocks are gonna come up against, because I want this, you guys are the first government entity to have this, to hear this. So as we start the whole countywide conversation, which we'll have funding for to collaborate on, I want to get it more and more refined. So anyways, that's the overall pitch, 1,080, that's for this cycle in the next month, and then 10,000 for the summer. And that would be the long-term investment to get the classrooms ready, so it would be used consistently every single summer.
Would you ever ask us for money for fall of 2025?
But by then the foundation will have the facility up and running at the 103 building.
Yeah.
It's true, but I'm trying to just plan it that if we need to plan ahead for longer expenses, and the reason one of the things that we know is that there is not a lot of families that come east out of Idaho Springs
Mhm,
to access us. We have a lot of families that come in from Downeyville, along Lawson, Dumont, and we have a lot of families coming from Empire. So and they're obviously toddlers in Idaho Springs, the assumption, and I think you guys would probably get on board with that, at least what we can see off zip codes, is that they just aren't accessing care, they're going east, they're going to the metro area, to Golden or something to access care. So we're probably not gonna take any enrollment deficit, but we're probably not gonna see increased enrollment either, if that makes sense.
With summer program or your fall program?
Fall.
Well, also the program's fairly new. I don't know
That's
if a
true.
lot of families in Idaho Springs know about it. When I'm talking about it at the playgrounds, a lot of them have no idea that it even exists.
That's true.
Well, I know we do have an Idaho Spring family, and we had another one until they went up to Barely Tall.
Yes,
Because they got scholarship
Yeah,
funding.
for sure.
So that's the other,
That's huge.
they got summer scholarship funding, and that made their transition to Barely Tall possible. So the total numbers of families that were served in summer were 7 through scholarship funding, 21 this fall. So that $47,000 served a total of Clear Creek County, 28 families. Again, for this year, it's 9 Georgetown. All Georgetown applicants received their funding. But not the full request. So overall, what I would come back for in fall, if anything, would be consideration for scholarship funds. But that's really contingent on that's a whole year of we'll be searching for grants, we'll be a more established foundation by then. We'll hopefully have some Chamber of Commerce, consistent grants. There's the Henderson Mine, we're gonna apply for their community grant stuff.
But
So-
remember, our budget cycle And we've had this
That's why-
conversation before. This is good timing for this now.
That's why.
But for fall money, because when you're ready to ask for that,
We may not have.
it's not gonna be at the appropriate time for Georgetown to be looking at at expending those funds in a timely fashion for you. So it needs to be planned a year in advance.
I can tell you that the Georgetown funding request for families came to 17,500. So, I don't feel comfortable asking for a specific amount at this point. I mean, I could definitely say 20,000, 30,000 overall, great, but I just don't think that's, yeah, exactly. I want to be realistic and respectful about what we're asking. The biggest priority and closest goal right now is that 10,000 per summer. If while you're having these discussions, you can keep that 17,000 number in mind of what fall scholarships were for GCS, that'd be great. But I don't, the focus really is this summer and seeing that we get that set up for every single summer. Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And then
Thank
again,
you.
please
Thanks for
read
reading
this and
through
like
this.
email me, call me. I want to hear all your thoughts on this action plan because I want to get it real strong. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading through our lengthy agenda.
Can we go home now?
Yes.
Jessica, thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
really
sorry for the lunch.
shipping.
And I apologize for not printing that. My computer was crazy.
No,
Thank
thank you, Jen, for the last minute print off of my last minute guidance, and thank you, Mary, for the last minute information this morning. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, staff items.
So we're gonna, table Dr. Cogg's decarbonization update. It's one that's not here. Kitchen.
Okay, so I have a couple bigger items to touch on, but I wanted to just start out by letting you know a couple highlights from my tax list. I originally was planning on applying for the RMS grant for what I'm now calling our downtown pedestrian improvement project in December, but I was recommended to try and apply for that at the end of October. I'll be meeting with Rick and with Cindy Neely and Scooter to sort of get that project finalized as far as what the scope is this week, hopefully. Rick and I had a meeting with the Centennial Opportunity Fund, LLC, about Lakeview Flats, which are the prefab units down by the lake, about their deed restriction program, and we're working on that. And then I also wanted to you all know how bad the leaf peeping traffic was, not this weekend, but the weekend before. So one of the things we'd like to do is put together a meeting. So it's very updated, but put a meeting together with everybody, our board, the county, Park County, maybe the Forest Service, just anyone that is involved with the people traveling through Georgetown, up Guanella Pass during leaf peeping season, to try and manage that traffic in a way that allows our emergency services to still function and our restaurants to function. Business Promotion Commission talked a little bit about some management opportunities that they might try to do, making it a festival and something like that. So just wanted you to know that that meeting is something we're trying to put together in the future. Okay, and then I wrote a report per your request on some of the code violation cases. While Jake was working on Tuesdays, he opened 31 cases and closed 25 of them. Almost all of them are involving, abandoned vehicles, accumulation of unhealthy matter, noxious weeds or rank vegetation, things that are visible from the streets that we wanted to get cleaned up to make Georgetown look a little bit nicer.
I'm guessing that we really didn't emphasize the noxious weeds, so what would it be a more appropriate example of those 12 violations that came up?
It actually was all noxious weed. Those are 12 noxious weeds violations, which are just tall plants, basically. There's a legal description for noxious weeds, and
I don't think we really were citing people for that. It was rank vegetation, which is vegetation over 12 inches.
Okay, so that makes more sense, because the county used to have a noxious weed program that they actually were trying to eradicate, and I doubt that you picked up the.
Was that why they knocked down all the weeds
Yes.
over by my place, up by the ramp? It looks so much better.
Was that our own property that we cleaned up, is that?
Yeah.
It's always nice when we're.
Taking care of it.
That's right.
But you know, just to clarify, I mean, we did let him know, please let us know the bad areas for our own property. Because how can we be going after others if we can't do it ourselves? And so we were addressing those two.
Yes.
Thank you.
And all of these citations were direct, we directed him to go look for these problems and to cite people for them. So these weren't self-directed on his part. Staff asked him to look at these particular issues that we had noticed or that people had brought to our attention. So these really were directed by staff, and he was the implementer, if that makes sense.
Keisha,
Yeah.
can you just explain to the board too, when you say citation, what does that mean and what were the implications?
Yeah, so he wrote letters to people, and they're strongly worded. People had a week, I believe, to respond to the letter. And so it would say like, you are being cited for this per this case or per this ordinance in our code. Please respond by, X amount of days, might have been 2 weeks, 15 days or something like that. And then, he was pretty good about like, if people reached out to him, like, okay, that's fine, this timeline works, but it scared people and they came and talked to us about it and they got the stuff done. So, and people were very upset about the weed one in particular. So we got a lot of pushback on that, but people cleaned up their yards, and I think it made a difference in the aesthetic, and we cleaned up our yards and we pulled some weeds for people too. So, yeah.
So and just to clarify, these were letters to encourage, nobody was fined.
No one was fined, no one was sent to court yet. So,
So, yeah.
Don't.
Just to clarify, I just wanted to add that.
yeah, we
We,
do have.
the goal was to work with people and to encourage some of these nuisance areas.
Yeah, and people were pretty responsive to, some people did a lot of work in their yard, moving cars and moving big vehicle or big like trash items. There were some construction sites where people had to remove a lot of debris, and, there was a number of people that did quite a bit of work to at least hide their trash, even if they didn't get rid of it, so.
Does that mean they're gonna get rid of that concrete from the foundations?
We were thinking of making flower planters out of them.
Yeah, I think that's great, yeah.
Yeah.
Climbing wall, it's gonna play.
No, I'm still trying to put pressure on Excel to move them or get rid of them.
That's Excel's
Yes.
debris, I
It's
thought
part
it
of
was one of the
The
foundations.
foundation.
No, it's Excel, it's part of their fire mitigation program they're gonna do. So they're supposed to move them somewhere, but that's what I was told.
Wow.
Did that answer your question about code
Yeah.
enforcement?
Yeah, that's great.
Great. And then the second thing, and this was put under Rick's section, so it's behind his report, but it's my item, is the Sixth Street Cafe table inventory. I just needed a walk one day and I thought this was a good excuse to go outside. So, I just walked around town and counted the number of tables and chairs that we had and what location they were at. So we have a total of 21 tables and 39 chairs, 60 total pieces of furniture. I spelled Georgetown wrong on Coffee Tea. And these walk around town, they're not always in the same spot, but this is where they were on September 26th. So, I talked to Bob, and I think this is almost all of the chairs and tables that we originally ordered. So that's nice. They have not been stolen for the most part. We might have lost a couple pieces, right?
I think that, because I think she said that about 50 pieces or 40, something like that. So
Okay, well, maybe we gained.
sounds about right.
But we were thinking about maybe adding furniture tags to them, so I just got one bit, I can get more
I wasn't really expecting to add this to the agenda, but it'd be $367.80 for a little metal tag to add to the tables that says Town of Georgetown with an inventory number. So if you were interested in doing that, that's about how much it costs.
Who was it that thought that the merchants were stealing them from town? Was that Ryder?
Rob thought Ryder was.
Well, I mean,
Because Ryder-
you look at where they are, they're all over
That
the
that
town.
the merchants were taking them from the park and kept moving them.
Well, I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
But that's
Because I know for a fact that some that have wandered recently from the Strauss Park back over to, places on Sixth Street.
But they're supposed to be on Sixth Street, that was the idea.
It was originally for all up and down Sixth
Okay.
Street, not for Strauss Park.
So the lesson is, Dan, if you see the patio furniture somewhere, don't panic. It just walks around.
And that's okay.
That's how it's fun.
Okay.
So far. If that's the least.
I would gladly take walking furniture, yes.
Sounds like we need furniture for Strauss Park. Because the rider had moved, I think, three tables and 6 chairs. And
They got it back.
inside the shelter, not the shelter, but the booths.
Yeah.
And they're used, I mean, all the time, you see people there, well, we're down to one lonely table and no chairs. So how about an inventory idea for us for our budget into the future? Well, what would you think that park would need? I would think if you put a couple of the round table, just like 4 chairs and 2 tables in each of the, 8 booths that are along that side, that'd be fun.
Parks and Rec wants Adirondack chairs over there too.
They do.
Well, I should say Beth wants them. They didn't vote
Of
on
course she does.
it.
The chairs, the furniture we're talking about, part of the original grant that we bought the restroom with, there was like $11,000 that bought furniture, and then 100,000 or 90,000 that bought, went toward the restroom. Right. So, I mean, it was bought, the furniture was bought, in conjunction with Strauss Park. It was part of the beginning of that project.
There were two grants, one for the restroom and one for, it was the Main Street program.
Right.
But they were purchased to have people be able to walk around and sit all up and down Sixth Street, not specifically for the park.
Well, benefits, we just, we probably just need to think about getting some more, just so Strauss Park will have some. Because people do use it, I mean, the park gets used quite a bit.
It looks so good. You should be so proud.
Yes, it's wonderful. Very impressive. More staff items?
I don't know if Jerry wants to talk about it right now, but it is CODA related, which is, kind of in my,
Later on the agenda,
yeah, so,
we'll talk about it then.
okay.
Do you have more?
Nope, that's it for me, unless anyone has any questions about something.
I appreciate getting a heads up and plenty of time so I can plan on helping out on Saturday for the traffic control. Where are we at in preparations for like road closures? Have we? When it snows?
Yeah, it's coming.
Use of the community center and helping with traffic control. You may want to send out an alert to your volunteers to let them know that that season is coming.
Is coming, okay, yeah, and then I don't know if you had a chance to look at the clipboard that I put together for the volunteers, but, and I'm grateful that we didn't have to deploy it, but I made packets this weekend to hand to people with a volunteer agreement, a liability waiver, a description of the role that we were asking you to do, and then I made some laminated stop signs, because we don't have enough, so. But I think that packet will work well if we can distribute it. Ideally before a snowstorm, usually we have quite a bit of heads up, at least a couple days before a big one happens. So we can distribute something similar with the description of the kind of roles that we're thinking about and the volunteer agreement, stuff like that, so.
We usually do a one-time waiver and you use it 3 times, so you may wanna distribute it even before you get a snowstorm.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
knowing that you'll have to do some that day, but that way your list is all taken care of and you're not chasing waivers around when the snow's flying.
I'd like to think too that our new chief is putting his eyes on it in all your spare time that you don't have. Because a fresh look at that, where, you know, when you debriefed and you discovered what has occurred or not. And his experience might always, you know, highlight something that we can be ahead of the game on and a little bit proactive as opposed to.
Scrambling, yeah.
Yeah,
Kelly
technically-
recommended,
I mean, technically we follow this lead, correct? You know how that looks, so.
well, actually, the way that the EAP that I wrote at least is set up is that Rick is the overall master of what's going on. Our police and chief would be designated as our public safety officer, which is a separate role. And I can re-present on that if you'd like. Kelly recommended some classes for us to take with the program that emergency services use that allow for easier intergovernmental cooperation. And I'm blanking on what that's called. right now.
FEMA, NIMS.
NIMS, yes, thank you.
National Emergencies.
Yes, so our EAP is based on the NIMS program, and Rick would technically be in charge of the whole thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, makes sense.
Was there anybody doing the assessment of the traffic circle, why it just can't rotate? Like, everybody gets stuck at the stop signs and people making crossovers?
Are you talking about during leaf season or during
Yeah.
snowstorms?
Both, really.
As I didn't stare at the traffic circle very often, because I was too busy getting, annihilated in my business for 13 hours at a time. I honestly think it's just incompetency and volume that like make kind of a perfect storm. And having worked traffic control during low volume incidents, like the borough race, because I always do traffic control in the borough race. It, like, I've had people try to back up in the roundabout and I'm like, no, it's a circle. And they're like, but I gotta go that way. I'm like, it's a literal circle. Like, you're gonna get there, I promise you. So, I mean, I don't know if the solution next year is to potentially look at putting volunteers at the base of I-70 where we, like, maybe pulling the stop signs out to let people out of town and then having
Right.
volunteers on the east and west exit ramps so that we can pull people into town as needed.
Right.
But letting people flow out, I've never seen a roundabout like that, ever.
Well, and the key part too is.
It looks like
Sorry.
Sarasota, no.
But, well, the key part too, living right there, we're watching Argentine flow, because it's kind of what I said, people go in the roundabout and they refuse to let it.
Yeah, yeah, once,
So the people in front of my house are literally sitting there, probably one for every 5 to 10 cars in Argentine leaving. It starts right there.
But note to self, Dan, do not buy a house on River Street because you'll regret it when the police comes.
I also think it's fun to be one after, but it's actually very hot again.
Let's go ahead and
Sorry,
get some more of this done.
is road traffic control.
Can I make a comment on that?
100%, sir.
That is something that I saw when we were here stuck in the traffic, is those stop signs that are preventing people from freely leaving. I don't know if that's a CDOT thing in conjunction with the interstate, but from my previous experience and looking at that, that was hindering the flow of traffic significantly and causing it to back up into the traffic circle. So I kept telling my wife, I can't believe these stop signs are here. This makes no sense. I've never seen this.
There was
Maybe
There
a
was a
reason.
fear, there was an accident years and years ago.
Okay.
And they put stop signs in there, but I see the same thing, it's just stops traffic.
With a runway truck, no brakes and.
Oh, okay.
But
So-
it wouldn't have helped them anyway, it would
I know.
Right, it may be something to revisit,
Yeah, I would say we can work it out. You could be staged there. We could have the traffic flowing.
or we can just, bypass it.
As long as the person's there.
Yeah,
The next major sets of incidents that you'll experience are gonna be blizzards, not even blizzards. It's gonna snow like an inch and then the tunnel's gonna close and then the town's gonna, then it's gonna be like, it'll be like the rental car pageant and all the ball fires and everyone will be in the roundabout.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
So the roundabout is the focal point. We probably have a police station there.
Kelly did request to meet, and we haven't
talk about this, but he wants to do a traffic study. So just something for budget maybe to talk about.
Okay.
Well, he's paying for it, right?
Let's move on to the next one.
Something that FEMA needs, I don't know if the NIMS program, but a lot of that training is available online.
Yeah, it's an online. Cool. Did anyone have any other questions about my task list?
No, John wants to move on.
I want to move on.
John, definitely.
We'll email you.
All right, email me anytime.
Okay, so
All right, my turn. I just want to give an update on the Argentine North specifically from Craig, since he's our engineer that's doing the project. I know Cindy did give us a little bit of snapshot, high level, but here's what's on the ground and where we're at. The electrical contractor will be done running conduit at the end of this week. Setting light foundations, light poles, and pulling wire starting next week. Shooting to have all sidewalks poured by the end of the week. And he believes that this is very optimistic, which means it may be longer. Striping and revegetation scheduled for next week. No schedule on relocation of the cabinet, the big cabinet by the roundabout. This has been a thorn, just to be honest. This is, trying to hurt a cat to get an answer on this one. But he also has not got anything. They keep saying they're gonna do it, but they don't give us a schedule. All utility companies have been notified that restoration needs to be completed by the end of next week. CDOT required documentation is a major effort for Craig and Cindy, and that's an understatement. They're being audited as well. And like she had said, they're treating this as this is like miles of interstate when it's just this one little small project, but we were selected to be audited. So congratulations. But it is a real headache that the requirements of what they're being put through, they want to pull their hair out. Project remains ahead of schedule and under budget, substantial completion expected by October 31st. So that is super exciting. I want to give just an update on another thing. We asked, Jerry's staff and so forth, just to kind of help us think through things. But we had a situation where we were doing comp time, and comp time is only for people who are non-exempt, which means they're eligible for overtime. And, our policy says that you have an option that we cash out, or, which is a time and a half, or it gets banked. Well, we had been putting it in the bank as if they worked an hour, then they got an hour, not an hour and a half, put into the bank. We became aware of it. Mary and I sat down and talked through it. We did an assessment to figure out how far does this go back and how much does this interact with our staff. It really was very minimal. However, we wanted to correct it. And so just for giving an update to the board, we identified which staff members that had banked time that was incorrect. It was just a half an hour that needed to be corrected. We estimated that in order to fix all of this from January until now is about $1,500. And that still allows people to have banking hours in there that were corrected, but they cannot exceed 40 hours now. And so people want to use vacation time, they have to use their comp time first, and then they begin to move that down to their PTO time. So just, it's an update, we've corrected it, it's fixed. And as far as policy goes, we do have a policy committee, and that will then go into the policy committee to then refine what, do we get rid of it altogether, or do we keep it? But at this point, it's been addressed, it's fixed, and then we'll continue to shape it as needed for future.
Jerry, can I ask you a question? Is there a legal requirement or federal labor or Colorado labor laws that let us only go back to 2024 or like a statute of limitations?
No, I mean, we determined that was our exposure, that's what hadn't been dealt with. So, I mean, we calculated and corrected all of the banking that had been improperly banked. I'm not answering your question very directly, because you're saying, were we required to go back further? And I'm not sure, but I can tell you at least that we covered all of the deficiencies. I can't do better than that in an answer sitting here than tell you that, you know, the solution we came up with, you know, appropriately now compensates the employees for the time that was improperly not banked. That's the best I can do.
I just wonder if an employee would have standing to say that they had not
I
received.
don't know, I don't think so.
I don't know. either.
Yeah. I can't answer, I don't know the answer.
I'm opening up Pandora's box,
Pardon?
and I'm opening up Pandora's box.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer.
That's fine. Thank you.
But we did correct it, and I think that that's the point that we really wanted to focus on. And, you know, when you go backwards, systems are not always the way we look at how we do things now. And so we do have a software system that is managed and has been properly corrected, but we never had a managed system in the past. So I don't think, Mary, you have something?
I just want to say, it has not been corrected yet. I was waiting till after this meeting to go in and do what we need to do, so I just wanted to make that clear. And then to the answer to your question, prior to this year, there was very, very minimal comp time accrued in the system. And prior to that, it was all being flexed out. We didn't even,
During the week.
yes, well, yeah, well, we corrected that too, because it was during the per pay periods. But, prior to, I think even last year, there was none, people were just flexing out the time. We weren't banking it at all.
So those were two big things. You have my report, if you have any questions in my report, I know you can look at it. I also submitted Jerry's gonna talk through my evaluation and give details about that, but I figured it's best to go through and see what we've done, what we've actually accomplished according to our goals from when we did the strategic plan. And I try to be very exhaustive. However, if you have questions in here of what did I mean, or can you give me more details about that specific item? But I kind of made it in so you can see whether we've accomplished it or if it's ongoing. That means it's still working. It may take a lot longer than what we anticipated, or even just the last one we've not accomplished it. It's not on the radar at this point because of circumstances. But there are a lot of projects that we have been working through, and I feel like we've accomplished a lot, or a lot of things are in progress. You can look around town. I mean, just the congestion is pretty exciting. I love to see that. But I know everyone's ready to get over this and go back to normal, but it is exciting to see so many road projects going on. But that's what this is. Please take your time to read it. Read this before you do your evaluation, so at least you have an understanding what me and the staff have been accomplishing based on these priorities that we set. And that's the big rocks. And this also, I included just the former capital outlay requests that Steve Robbie put together, and I've incorporated and gave answers, specifically details about where we are on that. Most of that stuff is really accomplished. And some of them we ended up not doing because, like, for example, a thumb or a bucket, that we ended up buying a complete excavator instead because our excavator was at end of life. And so some of those things are just incurring gutters. I mean, that's an ongoing thing. We're doing significant preparations for this grant that KJ and I are working on. So those are some of the things, but I mean, I give you great detail where we are, what we've accomplished, what's ongoing, what we have not accomplished. And that's really all I have.
Thank you, Jerry. I was asked to give you an update on the town administrator's evaluation. You know, annually I assist you with that. I put together the evaluation form, sent it to you, fill it out. My assistant summarizes it all, so it's all kind of written. And the real issue is schedule. Annette would like, if possible, to be able to have that evaluation on the meeting on the 22nd, which is, 2 weeks from now. And I'll give you my perspective, which is, these evaluations, because I tried to write them out myself, to fill them out, it took me 15 minutes. It's how long it takes to fill out the form, and I actually spent time, kind of invented answers, just to test, how long does it take a person to fill out this 4-page evaluation? Takes 15 minutes. My belief is that if you have a month to fill it out, you will fill it out in the last day during 15 minutes. If you have 5 days to fill it out, you'll fill it out during the last day in 5 minutes. Majority intended, but doggone it, that's how it works. And so it's your schedule, however. So having said that, if you want to have this evaluation on the 22nd, because that's also budget, and if there's a consideration of adjustment in salary, you want to be able to wrap it all together. So in a perfect world, to make that happen, the schedule would be this: I'd get evaluations to you by the 11th, which is this coming Friday. The form itself will probably get it out sooner because it's in the machine. I would ask you to complete them by the 16th, which is the following Wednesday. My assistant Winona would summarize them on the 17th. She's not in the office on Fridays, so she would, if whatever she doesn't have on the morning on the 17th doesn't get summarized. But she generates that document. I email it to you on Friday the 18th. You've got the weekend and Monday to have reviewed the completed document, and then you're ready to go for the evaluation on the 22nd.
We also have a budget work session on the 22nd? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's the first.
I'm just gonna show up in my pajamas.
And so you're gonna what?
Nothing.
He's gonna bring donuts and coffee because we'll be here the next morning.
So my question is, really, the thing you need to decide is, when do you want to conduct Rick's evaluation? Because then that back figures into a little schedule. If you want to conduct it on the 22nd, we're gonna have to have a schedule kind of like this. And I won't be calling people to say, please, please, I'm not gonna do that, because I don't have, it has not served me well in the past. I haven't gotten anything back for that. So if you want to do the evaluation on the 22nd, we need to have this kind of schedule, but that's your choice about when you want to have it.
I'd like to propose something, and I mentioned this to Rick a couple of weeks ago. To prepare for that evaluation, I'd like to see the previous evaluation so that we can obviously, see growth. I would like goals from Rick, the status of the existing goals that we developed at the last evaluation. And I know some of it's gonna be on the strategic plan that you gave us, but there were others. And what your proposed goals are from your perspective. A self-evaluation, which we had asked you for the last time. But I'd like to open up the opportunity for us to, not in the same evaluation form that we receive, but something else that Jared can put together. Some method of reaching out to staff that, like supervisors, I would suppose, in a sense. I mean, I'm not looking for necessarily the road and bridge guy, because we see this through a certain lens. And this goes back to how we were discussing even when we hired the new chief, who he's going to report to, who's responsible for his direct supervision. We only have limited contact with him. In the sense, we have limited contact with Rick. And to have that opportunity to have some staff feedback so that we can support him and staff. I point to you guys with, just because you're staff. For our next year. And it gives staff an opportunity, because who else do you go to? We're Rick's boss. So, I briefly also spoke to Jerry about this, and I got the impression that you could put something together. It wouldn't look like our evaluation. It would be a different, maybe 1 or 2 questions. And again, if staff chooses to respond, that's great. And if they don't, then they don't. And we move on. So we can
that doesn't necessarily have to be used in our, initially our evaluation, but when we collectively come and talk about it and we can see that information and then that protects staff members with some, you know, confidentiality and anonymity in their responses.
Well, it's up to the board, I need to hear from everyone, if I'm gonna put that together, I will.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Yes, no?
I want the most help with it that we can get.
It helps us be a better town, you know, and it helps us support Rick.
So the answer
Small
is yes, we should
information.
have staff evaluations, and that goes down to what level?
I mean,
At this point, you can almost name people, so it'd be, I mean, it'd be Jen and Mary, it would be what, Ryan?
I mean, yeah, you can give it the heads of people, but I mean,
I need your choice, what's your choice?
I would
Or you
say-
wanna do everybody?
I think everybody that's part of staff, I mean, yeah, it's, or are we gonna ask for their actual names or just their input?
no, so like if you think about like the SAC surveys that just came out for the school, it's a similar, and we do one for the staff too. So they get their own survey, and so I think if it's handled, the only thing, yeah, is that how that data gets disseminated and kind of evaluating like the outlier sort of, you know, we want data to be meaningful and pertinent to support you. And so I think I think it should be, because it is such a small staff, it would be weird to be like, no, Jess, you can't fill it out, I'm just saying Jess, because she was here, not, and you know, but Kasia can't, like, I think it would.
So then let's just do everybody.
Gotta be all.
So I got a question, do you want me to use the same evaluation that I do my staff so that they have that of me? Cause there's like 4 different categories and it's pretty exhaustive.
I mean, what do you think, I mean, other municipalities, when they're taking these like, these sorts of like,
Yeah, I've done it for many years for many cities. It's, I would characterize it as uncommon for the city manager or town manager to have staff evaluations that would be used by the elected officials that hire the manager. I said uncommon, I meant that, because that's absolutely true, but it means that there are some that do it. And, you know, if that's your choice, it's certainly not a common practice, but it can be your practice.
Well, we've done a teacher 8 to 10 questions, and it's more like a job satisfaction survey, and it's not a one person, but it can give you some direction.
It's your choice, I mean, I can create this evaluation, but I'll be creating it, you know, without showing it to you to say, are these the questions you want? If you wanna be involved in that, then the schedule will change.
How in Jerry we trust?
I also think like maybe 4 or 5 questions.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I would-
Like your guess, we don't.
Like, we had one, and it's like super anecdotal, but like, it was a staff survey for the school, and it was like, we hate staff meetings, well, we didn't stop doing staff meetings. Like, everyone still had staff meetings, we were like, sorry, guys, you don't get to cancel your staff meetings.
It should be short. I was speaking with someone earlier today, just about sort of interacting, a department head, and a new department head interacting with their staff, and she said, you know, I went out and I gave 2 sets of index cards to employees, and they were anonymous, and one was, tell me, you know, something that you're, you know, proud of, or that you think is going well, and then tell me, something I should know. And the something I should know is not necessarily tell me something bad, tell me something I should know, and turns out that question, she said, was one of the most useful to her, because it really gave permission to people to, you know, sometimes it was negative, sometimes it was positive, sometimes it was, you know, from my perspective, this is kind of inefficient. I thought that was really brilliant, honestly, because it was simple. Tell me something I should know. Now, I come up with something fairly short, I think. And I can do that if you want to do that. Am I hearing yes? Let me just sort of get some action. So it's 9:20 and I want to get some direction. So,
Yeah.
yes
Are
to
you
that,
giving me that look of disdain for?
huh?
No, she started, it's a yes.
I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah.
So it's, I just wanted to knock this off.
Something
Yeah,
short
yeah.
and sweet.
Okay, so I'll do that. Let me keep going with direction from you. I will, yeah, it's a yes to put together in the package. You'll get previous evaluations from the prior year,
Yes,
goals from Rick from the prior year and for this year,
yes.
goals from last evaluation, which were your goals for him, which is a little different than his goals, right? Yes, is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, and the self-evaluation, did you do one last year? Okay, so all that, plus the summary of your evaluations, plus this, the, you know, the collected, not really a summary, it's a collation, like, because you've seen it before, of the staff evaluations. So I can do all that. The real question now is schedule. And do you want to do his evaluation on the 22nd? If yes, then, you know, you'll get these things, you'll have to respond in a few days. If you don't, your stuff won't be in the summary. Do you want to do it on the 22nd, or is that date too aggressive?
Does that hamper us in the budget process if we don't do it on the 22nd, or if we do, we must do it on the 22nd?
I have a placeholder in the budget which can be changed. I mean, if you're talking about budgeting for salaries.
Right.
Yeah, I have a placeholder in there and we have, you know, we're gonna be messing with it till the second meeting in November. It doesn't, either way, it's fine. Right? Whatever you guys, it's just gonna make for a long meeting. Is all.
Oh, we love those.
So your
I
choices,
can tell.
your
They're
choices
John's favorite.
are the 22nd of this month or the 12th, because you've only got one more meeting this month, so then the next meeting would be the 12th of November.
I think we should maybe do it the 12th of November, so we're not rushing through it. It's pretty important.
Objections
That's
to that?
my,
No, it's the first Wednesday.
Going twice for the 12th of November? Yeah. That'll give me a little more time to pull it together.
yeah, great.
But it will still be a fairly tight time frame. There will be a little deadline, because my assistant Winona will need that. She's gotta have all the materials so she can, it'll be a day, a full day for her to do it. I'm sure she can do it in a day, but it can't trickle in after the deadline.
That's fine.
Now we have more time.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much. I have the direction I need.
Thanks, Gary.
Should we move on to the next?
Let's move on to the next one.
That's B2. You have a memo in the packet on CODA. And this is the recurring issue, can we leave the streets open and people can drink in them in a CODA? And I can give you the best answer I possibly can. And that's the time thinking about this. I did the memo. I talked to my partner, Carmen Bury, who's the city attorney for Idaho Springs. Because there was this rumor, Idaho Springs has pedestrian byways and it's wonderful. And I called her up and she said, you know, there's what people tell you or think happens, and then there's what does. And I think if the thing gets repeated 3 times, then it becomes real, and it isn't. So I've told you on the second page that there really isn't any animal as a pedestrian byway out there. They do have some cross streets that intersect Minor Street when they do the coda there. And those streets, as they intersect Minor Street, can be, she said, traveled by vehicles, but only for emergency access and access to parking. So it really isn't, you can drive there and you can drink there walking around, and you can mix moving vehicles with potentially inebriated, you know, pedestrians.
Dan, are you familiar with, I know
So-
you just showed up, so it's not like a thing.
We'll debrief about it.
I'm not, but yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the Kansas version, but not a Colorado version or the local.
Maybe we want the Kansas.
But let me draw your attention to, you've got a CODA ordinance, and I attached it. And the bottom of the first page of that ordinance says the common consumption area is an area defined by CRS, you know, the liquor code. Where persons over 21 years of age may consume alcohol beverages outside of a liquor license premises, and which is used physical barriers to close the area of motor vehicle traffic and to limit pedestrian access. And that limiting pedestrian is really about the service area, right? Just like in a bar. Because as I think you know, for the CODA, the way you draw the little map is you're actually doing a modification of premises for the liquor licensees. And that's, you know, a big deal in the liquor licensee world. If they're gonna even modify their premise to add the back patio, there's a little diagram and that's where they can serve. So, for a CODA, they would be able to serve on the street as long as they, or the sidewalk, as long as they get an encroachment permit, which is also required by your code. Once they're out there in the street, the statute and your ordinance contemplate that, you know, say, okay, that's fine, people can be there too. It's, and I'll shut up, now you've heard how I feel, which is, it just is a disaster waiting to happen. If people can walk around while there's motor vehicle traffic that isn't just emergency vehicles, or maybe, you know, you stop people so somebody can park. You know, I do running races a lot, I use the streets in various cities. You know, they'll stop the traffic until there's a big gap in the runners, and then they'll let traffic through. That requires a lot of management. So I don't know that you need to do anything necessarily tonight. You needed, I want to make sure you had the update, because there was this, you know, feeling that, well, other people are allowing this. Well, what is the this exactly they're allowing, and what do you want, and what's your safety concern level? So that's what I can tell you. Happy to answer the questions. Do we have, I know it's kind of chicken and egg. You've got liquor licenses that say, I would like to do this, but tell me if I can have the street.
Can you, are you willing
Yeah.
to say the licensees that are,
Interested?
yeah,
Yeah, so Mountain Mamas, Clear Creek Inn, which is a tricky one I have not included in a map previously. Talking to Guanella Pass and Silver Brick. Those are the ones I've spoken to that have demonstrated interest, current.
You need two.
yeah.
I need at least
And they
two.
have the link.
Can you imagine if Mountain Mamas and
Clear Creek Inn.
And they really need.
That's what our pedestrian or our walkways, really.
So it would be really hard.
Seems really problematic.
That's like, I mean, that's like 3 city blocks.
Right.
I mean, 3 town blocks.
From my perspective, you know, at some point, someone's got to encourage people or whatever. It's because if you have two that are close to one another or adjacent, you can actually get something going. You know, and you can actually close off a little bit of a street and a little bit of a sidewalk and sort of start with the world of the possible. You know, rather than deciding all of 6th Street, you know, is gonna be, and people are walking up and it's like a street fair, and it's great. Maybe you get there, but, and again, now we're in the policy realm, and I don't mean to invade that realm, but it would seem to me that to at least try something. Maybe it's an outreach to a couple of licensees that are proximate to one another. Hi, we would love for you to try this out on a weekend. We will help you with the applications, et cetera, and process it and get it in front of the board for modification of premises. And, you know, would you do that? And then you can, in a way, that's a test, you know, you can kind of see how it works, what the issues are. Because I think what has been preventing this from happening is, well, I'm a licensee, but I just don't know if this will work for me. And it's, what about this licensee waiver here? You know, it's sort of, you really, I think it will require the town to kind of solicit some people to get it done. And I would solicit the ones that are gonna be the easiest, they're close to each other. So you're not creating right away a logistical nightmare that you're gonna have a lot of problems with. I would find the two that are the absolute easiest to do. And I personally believe the cars, no cars issue is probably not what's keeping people from doing it. I think it's that they haven't been, that maybe you approach two and say, let's just try this. Then those others see, oh, that's how it works. And you also see, this worked, but here's the 3 things that we had no clue until we tried it, and now we know it's good.
I hope it's tried, but I can say as a licensee, it feels like, when I look at it from a licensee perspective, it feels a little bit complicated. Like, and it feels a little bit scary. I hope if you can get that partnership with like Mountain Mamas and Gwinnett or Silver Creek, or even like Alpine, where there's, I mean, that still puts 11th at risk, but it's a tricky one. But I think if we could just get one person to do it, it would be really, really cool.
But you have to have
Two, I know, sorry, 2 people, it's late.
Yeah, it's late.
And I think staff would probably, the idea for me, or my suggestion would be staff would probably like kind of a, maybe doesn't even have to be emotion, a consensus from the board to go see if a couple of licensees can be encouraged to file an application and to you ask staff to help them do that. So that what you would next see would be 2 licensees applying for a CODA, modifying their premises to do it. And then they can come in here and you can kind of design some of the conditions. You can see what the map looks like and where the pedestrian circulation is going to be and how that may or may not affect traffic and safety. And that's, now I promise you I'd stay out of the policy realm.
Okay.
But, you know, you've struggled with this. You put it on the books, it's been months, nothing's happened. I understand the frustration. So that's one person's idea for how you maybe break the log there.
How about trying what Amanda was suggesting? I mean, it's just Fifth Street, a little piece of it.
I've been speaking with all of them a lot, and they are just hesitant, and some of that is liability stuff, most of it's liability stuff, but we had a meeting scheduled, I got mono, then it's leaf peeping season, we haven't been able to reschedule something, but I have been talking to them extensively, the people on Fifth Street. Lloyd approached me, and I should have talked to him about it before, because he's really eager to do, he's Clear Creek Dam, to be clear. He's eager to participate in things, but he is in an awkward position for participating in that, so. But yeah, Mountain Mamas and Guanella Pass and Silver Brick and 511 have all been approached individually and together by email and by.
Might be the time of year too, that's not necessarily conducive to them thinking about it, but if we have a conversation later for next year, at an appropriate time, when people are.
I think one of the things you can maybe get off the ground would be like some type of off-race ski or like boshing type of. I would probably don't want to go full boshing, because I didn't see the glory days of boshing, but I've heard of it. But something where you can maybe inspire fast. I'll tell you when we're done.
Okay. I also think Christmas market could be, and we've talked about this a little bit, but we will have a special event perimeter that allows people to walk around and carry alcohol and have streets closed already, so it's an opportunity for participants if they want to get a CODA going, and they can say the schedule is just Christmas market and we can amend that. But I'm hoping that maybe some of those people would be interested in participating in a CODA for the Christmas market when a lot of the logistics exist already for that.
Because they're already closed down.
Yeah, Rose Street, you know, isn't as critical. Yeah. All right. Well,
I forgot to add this to the agenda, can I just throw it out here real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
Done with it? I'm sorry, Gary, are you done?
What I would suggest procedurally, take a motion to amend the agenda to add, what was that?
The, Mountain Express Lane.
information.
Yeah.
That was your motion to amend the agenda to add that, and there was a second from.
Me.
Looks like Amanda was first, yeah. So now you,
First and second.
okay,
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
terrific, it's been added to the agenda, take it away.
So we all got an email from the Office of Policy and Government Relationships with CDOT, I believe, relations, not relationships. So CDOT is considering requesting an increase in the number of hours the peak period shoulder lanes can be open and operational. We want your thoughts on how the lanes work for your community. These lanes are also known as the Mountain Express lanes. would you like to have a 30-minute virtual meeting to discuss our findings and your community organization's thoughts about increasing the hours that the lanes can be open? And then they tell us who it will be with the Federal Highway Administration. I know the Mountain Express line doesn't necessarily come through Georgetown, it ends right before us or whatever, starts right after us. However, they directed this to all of us, selectmen and police judge for the town of Georgetown. So do we want to entertain having a virtual meeting with them or directing someone to do that? Do we? Yeah, we want to know what they're thinking.
I think it really helps with the traffic flow.
It's huge.
And, I think drives me crazy when the lanes are closed, when we have massive traffic. So yeah, I would like to be part of that. Do we want, can you make a contact with them?
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. There we go.
I move to adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Now, I thought we were gonna have a work session.